screen. James got the levels of the light dialed in with Spencer, our guy here at our Broadway studios, and now it looks good on camera, apparently. Whether or not I look good on camera is probably a different conversation. I am wearing some pretty slick jorts, though, so you can always count on that.
I'm not sure there's any adjustments that we can do to help you, OC, or me, for that matter, especially if you're wearing the jorts, but anyway, I digress.
All right, so I promised you we would do some over-unders today. The start bench cut is actually it's just a pop culture one today because I want to do over-unders instead of start bench cut. Over-unders for some important, what I think are crucial Utah football stats, and we'll flesh out how I came to the numbers I'm setting the over-under at, and we'll flesh out whether or not we think Utah will hit those or not. The start bench cut is going to be pop culture related. I don't know if you've seen it yet, James. Have you watched Happy Gilmore 2 on the old Netflix?
I haven't had a chance to yet, but I am really looking forward to the time when I can carve out some time. It's a lot harder to watch things for yourself when you got the newborn at home, I'm finding, OC.
Yes.
So I've got it on the list.
Welcome to the world of parenthood. It's just how it's going to be for the foreseeable future, quite frankly. But in honor of Happy Gilmore 2, which I finally got around to watching, we're going to do a start bench cut of Adam Sandler's not exactly classics, all right? You got to take Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison out. Those two are on their own level. They're on their own echelon of movies that Adam Sandler has been responsible for, starred in, produced, etc. So I'm going to do a start bench cut of Adam Sandler, not quite instant classics.
As this, so with some of these other start bench cut pop culture ones, you found like the top grossing things. Is this based on your own opinion, or did you find like statistics that said these ones are
top performing performing movies outside of Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison? Okay,
ready for it.
And these are the this is Big Daddy, 50 First Dates, and The Waterboy. Now, Mr. Deeds probably deserves some kind of honorable mention there. Blended, which was like another him and Drew Barrymore family comedy type thing. Where
Wedding Singer.
The Wedding Singer.
The original Adam Sandler, Drew Barrymore classic. Yeah.
Wedding Singer is also really good.
So good.
You know what? There might actually be a metric where I could get Wedding Singer in there. Hold on.
One of my favorite Adam Sandler movies. It's a good pick by you, good poll by you as far as honorable mentions with Mr. Deeds as well. I feel like that one is not quite as appreciated as others, but it's also very good.
The other thing here is that Grown Ups, the Grown Ups series, Grown Ups 1.
Yeah.
Grown Ups 1 is actually a very strong performer in his, and
not surprised.
The Hotel Transylvania movies are actually his 3 highest grossing movies.
Those are also like, sometimes as an adult, and especially if you don't have kids, you're like, okay, let's check out this cartoon. It's probably not going to be that great, and you're like, oh, this is actually really good. That's Hotel Transylvania. So that one's actually really good. One of my favorite of the more recent cartoon series.
So, okay, do we want to go? You know what? I'm going to make an executive decision here.
Okay.
I'm going to say Wedding Singer instead of
Waterboy.
Instead of Waterboy.
See, I love all 4 of those movies for Adam Sandler, but I might have replaced 50 First Dates instead of
50 First Dates.
Waterboy.
Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're keeping 50 First Dates.
Okay.
And we're putting Waterboy back in because this is a sports show.
Yeah. We got to have the sports movie in.
Is Big Daddy the one that we should move?
It might be, but I love Big Daddy.
And Big Daddy was a like that if you talk about box, so there's the box office performance. All of his old movies can't touch his new movies in box office because we're talking about grossing in the 90s. You weren't selling tickets for $17 a piece and $22 a piece.
Yeah.
Right? It was like $8 to go to the movie. non-matinee. If you were getting the matinee price, it was
I
like
miss those days. And
$3.75.
I miss in St. George, at least, OC, I'm sure there was plenty of these kind of theaters around here in the Salt Lake Valley along the Wasatch Front. But we had not only the Dollar Theater in addition to the first run movie theater that was full price. We also had like a mid-tier $3 theater. I miss those days, man.
$3.
It used to be. It was like when the movies first came out. They spent like a month in the expensive one, and then they spent a month or two in the mid one, and then another month or so in the cheap one. Those were the days, man. I miss when movies were affordable.
My children love the Hotel Transylvania movies. Here's the thing. I know there's parents out there who like to take their kids to the movie theater. I don't know what age you actually have to get the kids to before it makes sense to take all of them. But, my 6-year-old, she can sit through an entire movie at the movie theater, kind of appreciates this is cool. You get the, bucket of popcorn or whatever, which, by the way, my parents never once got for us growing up. And I don't know why I spoil my children this way. My 3.5-year-old.
You never got the bucket of popcorn.
My 3.5-year-old, about, 78% of the way through the movie is going to invariably be like, when can we go home? There's just not quite the attention span.
Yeah.
The 18-month-old, forget.
Well, and you can't, and you probably are one of those parents that really do your best to limit screen time anyway. But in a movie theater, you can't just hand them your phone or a tablet either to like get them through whatever you're doing. So that makes it a lot harder.
I understand. There's these mythical theaters that I've actually never seen or never been to, where apparently they have like a McDonald's play place in the movie theater itself.
I did not. I have not been to one of those.
And it's specifically for parents that are just like, I want to go watch a movie, and like, kids, do whatever you want. Run around the theater, be loud. And the tacit agreement is that, like, if your kid is in the ball pit making noise, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Because
that's amazing. I have not been to one of those yet.
I've never even, like, seen it offered, but apparently they exist. 877-353-0700. Is this like cow tipping? It's not real, but people talk about it?
There are movie theaters, and I've seen them now. I think they're mostly the Megaplex theaters. Shout out to LHM Megaplex. They have like quiet rooms in the corner.
Yeah.
But you can only, at least in the written rules, I'm sure they don't. There's no way they enforce them. But you're only supposed to stay about 20 minutes at a time in there. I'm like, we can't take like. So no one's bringing an actual infant to the or a toddler to the movie theater because there's no way you can only spend 20 minutes at a time calming them down if they're upset.
What poor 15-year-old? Excuse me, you've been in here for 23 minutes. It's time to go.
There's no way they actually enforce it, but as I looked at like I was looking at movies and like how is there a way to go to the movies at this stage? And I'm like, oh, they have these quiet rooms. And anyway, it was written down only 20 minutes at a time.
877-353-0700. Start one, bench one, cut one if you like. At Real OC Sports, the Adam Sandler in honor of Happy Gilmore 2, which is not an instant classic.
I was going to say, what's your review?
Look, man, I enjoyed it. I'm no longer in this frame of mind when it comes to movies, especially straight to Netflix comedy films, where I'm like, this better be the greatest thing I've ever seen. I think people who are bigger golf fans might enjoy all of the PGA and Live Tour cameos and like some of the inside jokes that go with that. I still was entertained. I still thought it was like mildly funny. I've told you many times on the air my admiration for what Adam Sandler has carved out for himself in the entertainment business. I mean, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars worth of fortune to hang out with whoever he wants to hang out with and make whatever movies he wants to make. That's what he does.
And the reason why some people might be going, why didn't this go in theaters? Because Adam Sandler and Happy Madison Productions signed that deal with Netflix however many years ago that he's going to make, a couple movies a year for Netflix only. So that's why it's no. I mean, like you said, his Netflix-only movies have not been as good as his go-to-theaters first and then to streaming service movies, but that's not because they're Netflix movies, because it was attempted to be as good at the very least.
There's a moment where he breaks the fourth wall at the very end, at the end of the movie, about that whole thing, about the fact that he just gets to do whatever he wants, gets to put his family in the movies or whatever. At the end of the movie, there's a little fourth wall break between him and one of his daughters who's a character in the movie.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, that's actually kind of sweet.
That's cool.
That he acknowledges that. And, anyway, I think it's great. It was fine. It's worth your time, in my opinion, to watch it. You're not going to come away being like, that's the funniest movie I've ever seen. But I also don't think you're going to be like, I hated that.
Is it? So it's not near as good as the original.
No, and it's not as original as the original.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Basically, the entire script is just callbacks to the first movie.
Yeah. Okay.
And leaning into the nostalgia. And guess what? I don't mind that.
Yeah. No. Especially almost 30 years later.
30 years later.
Like if they had made Happy Gilmore 2 in like the mid 2000s, you'd be like, okay, this is ridiculous. We're just calling back to something we're very familiar with. But like 30 years later, there's a new audience that's not familiar with the original Happy Gilmore, so you absolutely can do that.
Anyway, start bench cut. We'll go.
Are we taking out Big Daddy? Is that what you said?
No,
or are we leaving
Big Daddy, Waterboy, and 51st Dates.
And honorable mentions to, what was our list now? Anger Management, Just Go With It, Mr. Deeds, and we added Wedding Singer.
Yeah.
And there's so many more.
Yeah.
If you want to text us your honorable mentions.
Start Waterboy, bench Wedding Singer, cut 51st Dates. I thought Happy Gilmore 2, no matter how many, did not like it.
Oh.
That's all right. It's okay.
Like you said, Grown Ups is a good honorable mention as well. That one feels, even though all of his movies are kind of ensemble movies, that one feels way more ensemble than an Adam Sandler movie.
3314 says, why not start bench cut Adam Sandler sports movies? Waterboy, Longest Yard, Happy Gilmore. I'll tell you why. Because Happy Gilmore is going to win running away. The other two can't hold a candle, and Longest Yard's not even an original Adam Sandler. Like that's a remake by itself.
I feel like it was a good remake, but it's still not. Yeah, you can't have an unoriginal Adam Sandler be in your top 3.
Start Waterboy, bench Wedding Singer, cut 51st Dates. Jack and Jill reigns supreme. No, Jack and Jill is so terrible. Spanglish is a great flick too, but off the norm for Sandler. Spanglish is good, and also Click is really good.
Click is very good.
Click is so good, and it's supposed to be a comedy, but it's also deeply emotional film.
It's like his first Uncut Gems was like an actual serious film that he got serious. Did he get Golden Globe or Oscar nominations for it? Anyway,
yeah, didn't win one, but he got some nominations.
Click was obviously not to that level. Serious movie, but that's the first one that I'm like, oh, this is kind of a serious movie for Adam Sandler.
There's a little bit of a Christmas Carol vibe to it, where it's the ghosts of your past or your future are haunting you.
But it's a very original way to do it.
Yeah,
I loved Click.
Click is really good.
Kate Beckinsale,
dude,
come on, man.
that's what I mean. Adam Sandler. He's like the best one, and Just Go With It hasn't even been mentioned yet. Yeah. Just Go With It. He's like, here's what I want to do. I want to film a movie where Brooklyn Decker and Jennifer Aniston are both in love with me, and I want to do it in Hawaii.
So they're in swimsuits.
And we're just filming in paradise for 3 months or however long.
Of course,
the man is a genius.
Of course, you cast Brooklyn Decker to have scenes with her with swimsuit, because that's what she does.
It's not exactly you're not going to have Brooklyn Decker in the Alaska movie.
Yeah, but still, that one is the ultimate hot girl co-star movie for him.
He took it to a new level where he's just like, instead of having one of them be in love with me, let's have it be multiple.
And we'll have one who's totally not age appropriate for me, and one that's definitely age appropriate and still hot.
Yeah,
great.
And Nicole Kidman's in that movie.
Yes, Nicole
Dave
Kidman.
Matthews is in that movie. That's one of Dan Patrick's best.
One of his best cameos. That one's. And speaking of Longest Yard, when he's the cop, those are the two most memorable cameos for me.
9514 says honorable mention Little Nicky. Terrible movie. There's one Adam Sandler movie that is just unforgivably bad. Well, there's more than one. Jack and Jill is unforgivably bad.
I never saw that.
That's My Boy. Him and Sandberg from Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, I didn't see that one either.
Don't ever watch it. It is not only is it just terrible the whole way through, but the twist at the end is repugnant. So there's no reason to watch it.
So we have a cutting of 50 First Dates in the first two texts you read. Is that what you're?
Yeah, there's a lot of cutting of 50 First Dates. I think maybe I like 50 First Dates more than most people do.
I love 50 First Dates. That's a very rewatchable Adam Sandler movie.
Samwise Gamgee being in it as the steroid-taking brother.
And speaking of, I may have been wrong. Click might not have been the first real oh, this is kind of a serious movie with Drew Barrymore's storyline in 50 First Dates.
It does pluck at the heartstrings a little, but I mean.
Oh, yeah. Plus, Dan Aykroyd is the doctor in the movie.
Rob Schneider plays a pigeon-speaking Hawaiian. I mean, come on.
It's so good.
Anyway, keep them coming at 877-353-0700. This is not, though, Happy Gilmore 2 review show. The Sean O'Connell show
although
today.
we did spend about 18 minutes.
we spent a little bit too much time on that. We got a lot to discuss today. Craig Bolerjack's going to stop by later on in the show. We're going to have some fun with that. And Adrian Denny, Between the Pipes, brought to you by Angora and Aladdin Industries. I want to start throwing these out there, though. I know people are probably going to be more opinionated about the Adam Sandler movies, but the over-unders, okay, on these stats that I think are important for us to address with the Utah football season as camp begins today. And, yes, I will ask Kyle Whittingham if he's seen Happy Gilmore 2 yet, because he probably still hasn't seen Happy Gilmore 1. 877-353-0700. Do we think Kyle Whittingham has seen Happy Gilmore 1? Yes or no? I'm going to say no. I bet it came out in 1996.
So he was what, 4-5 years into his position coaching tenure at the University of Utah?
He was a D-line coach.
Yeah, if he had been if he had been still looking for his first permanent coaching job since college or since his brief NFL stint in that time, I might say, yeah, he's seen it. He had some downtime, but since he'd been a coach for a few years, he's not the kind of guy that loses focus like that.
There's no way he's seen Happy Gilmore 1, right? Okay, 877-353-0700. We got people calling in. Everything's good. What's going on? All right, overs and unders on important stat lines, all right? We're going to do this for a lot of different stats as the season approaches, much like we're going to do overs and start bench cut. Rush yards per game. I'm setting the rush yards per game for Utah football in the 2025 season. Now, remember, you've got a quarterback who can run. You got a quarterback who might be the best runner on the team. All respect to the running back room, but just watch. If you haven't already, watch what Devin Dampier is capable of with the football in his hands and nobody expecting him to unload that thing. 199.5 over-under on rushing yards per game. To put it in a little bit of context for you, last year, where Utah only had a run game, you didn't really end up being overly productive. 130 yards per game. 199.5, meaning if you're over, you're 200 yards a game, puts you at fourth in last year's Big 12 conference. So you're top 4 in last year's Big 12 conference if you have 200 yards a game. 199.5 is the over-under that I'm setting it at.
And then that's, I'm assuming ASU was 1 last year. Anyway, I'm wondering,
UCF, remember, was
one of the most, that's right.
They're one of the most prolific rushing offenses in the country.
Sneaky, prolific rushing offense because they didn't win that many games.
UCF had almost 6 yards per carry, 33 touchdowns on the ground. They ran the ball 43 times per game.
Yeah. The reason I bring that up is to say is 4th or 5th in the conference, like compared to the way last season turned out. Is that where like the contenders of the conference were last season?
So UCF, top rushing team, no.
Not a contender, obviously.
Kansas State, contender. They were number 2 in rush yardage. Kansas was number 3 in rush yardage per game. Arizona State was 4, and they were at 199.9. So if you're 199.5, you can still take the over and still be 5th place in the conference. And it goes UCF, Kansas State, Kansas, Arizona State, West Virginia, Cincy, Baylor, Texas Tech. BYU was 9th. Iowa State was 10th. Houston 11th, Utah 12th in the conference. Colorado was the worst rushing team in the conference last year at 65 yards per game. And, of course, Colorado ended up with a pretty darn good year.
Yeah, so it's – to me, that's based off of the way last year played out, and every season's going to be different, particularly in the Big 12. It would seem to me that if you're not in the top 5 in rushing, as long as you're productive in the throw game, productive enough in the throw game, you may have a better chance to win the Big 12 if it shakes out like it did last year. But
to put it in context for what Utah football looks best doing.
Yeah.
All right. Last year, not a good year by any metric on the offensive side of the ball. 130 yards a game on the ground. The year before that, also a disappointing year, but obviously more respectable. 182.5 per game on the ground. 2022, a conference championship year in the Pac-12, although you needed a lot of miracles and tiebreakers, but you still won the conference. 217 yards per game. 2021, 217 yards per game. So your back-to-back championship seasons, you were 17 yards over effectively the total I'm asking you to pick an over-under on. 2020 doesn't count. 2019, you were at 201 yards per game. 2018, you were at 180 yards per game. 16 was also a really good rushing year for the University of Utah, 214 yards per game.
So over 200 historically is what you want to see Utah football do. And I know we've got listeners going, yeah, but it's a different offensive coordinator. We don't have to measure it that way. Yeah, that was 2 different offensive coordinators. Troy Taylor years we put in there. Andy, actually Aaron Roderick year is one of those, right? Andy Ludwig, obviously. Jason Beck is historically a guy who relies on the run game a ton too. So it's going to be an important part of this offense. So yeah, 199 and a half is what you're putting
199 and a half.
Right.
So again, I looked at the numbers. I looked at the seasons. 200 plus yards for Utah's offense is a really good year. It's still only 5th in the conference. So I'm not putting these numbers out there that are like, well, watch this. Watch Utah be the best offensive team suddenly in the conference. I don't expect that. I really don't.
And 2 of the teams who finished 3rd and 4th in the conference by tiebreakers, as you read that off, they were in the bottom half of the conference in rushing. So
it's not like it used to. This is not 1940s football where the more you run, the more wins you get. Utah football has had a complicated relationship with the throw game, and balancing that out and getting to a point where you can run for 190 to 215, 220 yards per game is wonderful as long as you have pass production. There are years where you lean too heavy into that. 2016 was not a championship year for the University of Utah, right? 2016, you had a talented team that underachieved from a win-loss perspective, but they were rushing for 214 yards a game. That was really good.
Was that Joe Williams' unretirement year, or was that the year before?
That was no, that was that year.
Okay.
Right? So over under 199.5, over under 199.5, knowing you're going to have a quarterback who gives you probably 40 to 120 yards per game, right? With his legs, depending. And of course, you're flush along the offensive line. You got the best run blocking offensive tackle in all of college football. and you have at least a couple of guys that we think are going to look good in this brand new running back room, it's very much guesswork because we saw limited amounts in spring. It wasn't exactly a direct analog to what you're going to see in real competition. And the coach is new. Every player in the room is new at running back. So, over under, James, 199.5 rush yards per game for the University of Utah in 2025.
I'm still going to say over because I can't help but just picture Devin Dampier just running all over the field at different times. And like you said, he's going to account for close to half of that production if they get to 200 just about every game. And if just by committee, even if Wayshawn Parker doesn't end up being quite as spectacular as Utah fans would hope he would be, by committee they've brought in a lot of talented newcomers outside of Parker. And that offensive line looks like it's going to be historically good for the program. Like, all signs for me point to a 200 plus rushing yard per game year.
Okay. All right. So you're going over.
You?
I'm going over because your quarterback is so good at running.
Yeah.
Now, I say that, and I'm not saying over 199.5 is going to translate into however many wins. Didn't work that way for UCF. Didn't work that way for Cincinnati and West Virginia and Kansas, who were really good running teams in the Big 12 Conference last year. I think, much to my own chagrin, the more important total is pass yards per game. We're going to get to that one eventually. We're going to take a break. 877-353-0700. That's how you weigh in on the text line at Real OC Sports as well on Twitter for your start bench cut and for your overs and unders. I do want to hear from you. Where are you setting your expectations on some of these numbers for the University of Utah football season? Camp Kyle begins today. Media availability, the first one is basically right now. Obviously, I'm on the air, so we can't be there. But
yeah,
man,
we got Porter Larson there talking with the Coach Beck and Coach Scally, the offensive defensive coordinators, as you said. So we'll have that sound later today.
Sean O'Connell Show brought to you by Big Willie's, Utah's Sports Bar, 1717 South Main. Go check them out and tell them OC sent you. It's ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network. We're playing some over-unders here on the Sean O'Connell Show. If you can't listen live, make sure you check us out on the ESPN 700 app. Tell your smart speakers, play ESPN 700. On-demand section on our ESPN700sports.com page will always have the latest and greatest.
I have a new over-under for you.
Oh, okay.
Over-under half a time that Kyle Whittingham has watched Happy Gilmore, the original.
Taking the under. I'm taking the under on it.
How about Kalani? Do we think Kalani is a...
Yes, absolutely yes.
He's seen it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Kalani,
so
100%.
different kind of focus for Kalani. He still indulges in some things.
Kalani was in college when that movie came out.
Oh, that's a good point.
Every college football player in the world probably went to. They probably
that's a good
went
point.
As
I
a
forget
team activity.
I forget he's actually much younger than Whit.
Yeah, way
even though
younger.
they're like best friends. I tend to think that they're a lot closer.
Kalani's what, like, is he even 50?
I'll look it up.
Maybe he is now. 49. He's 49 years old.
Yeah.
Man, I hate doing that. I hate looking up when someone who is like so much more accomplished in life than you are,
but somewhat close to the same
you're
age.
just like, oh, I'm 8 years behind him in age and 8 light years behind him in accomplishment.
Yeah.
Damn it.
I don't know, NBA players, when I'm like Rudy Gobert is 6 months younger than me. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Can I tell you something? Every single NBA player is younger than me, James. Every one of them. There's not one who's like LeBron is the oldest guy in the NBA now, right?
Yeah.
And LeBron is like a year and a half younger than me.
Wow. So that's a really tough one for you. You're like, yeah, look what they've accomplished.
He's
in
like
way less time.
He's got 299. He's got no. He's got I don't know. He's got like $9.59999 billion more than I do, and he's younger than me. And by the way, his kids are like way older than my kids. That's another weird thing. When you see people who are younger than you, who have adult children, you're like, man, that's pretty crazy. You had a kid when you were a kid.
Yeah, we're going to be, my wife and I are going to be in that stage where we're going to be some of the older parents, probably.
You'll be right.
Or maybe right in the middle.
Right in the middle.
It is Utah, though. There's a lot of
There's
people
a
have
lot of
kids
young parents, yes.
A lot of people have kids young here still. So we're going to, I anticipate there being some significant age gaps in our peers.
Sure.
With parents when Owen the boy ends up going to
I'll
school.
tell you this, my oldest daughter started going to like a little gymnastics class, right? And it's effectively just playtime for the kids. This is when she was like 3. And she really became buddies with this little boy who was in the class. And so my wife is just like, oh, this little boy and Rowan they're good friends, so let's
play date. Let's go.
Let's play date. Let's do that. And I was like, great, cool. Let's, we'll go to we went to like a petting zoo basically with the parents. The parents of this 3-year-old boy were 23 years old.
Oh my goodness.
I was 38 years old at the time. And I'm just like, I'm sorry. They were really wonderful. They were so nice. They were great. I'm like, we have literally nothing in common. There's
the whole generation between us, basically.
I'm almost old enough to be your dad. So, yeah,
that's
doesn't
wild.
work. All right.
Anyway, more real over-unders.
Back to our actual over-unders, okay? This one, I promise you, I wanted to be as realistic as possible about it. I really tried because the numbers from last year were just so ridiculous. And the guy who's responsible for those numbers being ridiculous is now your starting quarterback. Sacks allowed. How many sacks are Utah's offensive linemen going to give up in this 2025 cycle?
And Devin Dampier going to take. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, if Devin Dampier is the healthy quarterback for the whole season, that changes this number pretty drastically. The fact that you've got the offensive line you've got, I think changes this number pretty drastically. Somebody, by the way, it was not like a big famous website, but some on the rise kind of like sports stats website yesterday tweeted out that they finished their offensive line evaluations, that Utah's got the number 1 offensive line in the country returning. So if it had been like ESPN or if it had been Pro Football Focus or somebody like that, I probably would have ran with it. Just a little aside. In any case, sacks allowed. I'm setting the over-under at 9.5.
That is such a low number. But that speaks to what you were just talking about. Devin Dampier didn't take any sacks last year.
There were 5
and
teams.
This offensive line is so good.
There were 5 teams in the country last year who took 10 or fewer sacks. So if you're taking the under on 9.5, you're talking about fewer than 10 sacks, obviously. There were only 5 teams in the country. Now, one of those was a Big 12 team. Kansas had 10 sacks last year. Okay? The number 1 team in the nation last year in sacks allowed was
the Buckeyes?
New Mexico.
New Mexico. Oh, yeah. I thought you were pointing at me because okay.
No, I was pointing at you as like, you're obviously going to get this one right, James.
Devin Dampier didn't take any sacks. Yes.
I mean, it's just a ridiculous number. Sacks allowed for New Mexico last season, 5.
So 2, but that says, just like what I was inferring from the rushing yards list, the top 5 in the Big 12, not like half of them not contenders in the conference. These 2, Kansas and New Mexico, not bowl teams. So
New Mexico gave up 5 sacks for 21 yards. Could you imagine on the season ledger you only give up 21 yards of negative plays in your passing game? Do you know how ridiculous that is? I guess you maybe could add some passes behind the line of scrimmage that lost yardage, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
5 sacks for 21 yards. And by the way, Devin Dampier only took 4 of those 5 sacks.
Wow.
One of them was a backup. Army gave up 6 sacks. Georgia Tech gave up 9. Colorado State and Kansas gave up 10 apiece.
Okay, so none of them big-time contenders. Army did have a really good year, though.
The other ones, like even number 6, Navy, Rice, Duke, San Jose State, these are all teams who were excellent in not giving up sacks last year.
So not necessarily a correlation between having a great season and not. I'm surprised at that.
Honestly, there's not even a correlation behind having a great offensive line and not giving up a lot of sacks.
Yeah.
A lot of it is just your quarterback was either incredibly elusive or he would just throw the ball away.
Yeah.
Or he would throw interceptions instead of taking sacks, which unfortunately was something that in a couple of those instances Devin Dampier did. That's something that they're coaching out of him and will have coached out of him hopefully all the way by the time you take your first snaps. So
over 9.5.
So effectively, I'm asking, behind this offensive line at the University of Utah, is Devin Dampier going to take double the amount of sacks that he took last year, more than double, or do we think that it's going to be a good year in protecting the quarterback? Again, doesn't necessarily translate to victories, doesn't necessarily translate to conference championships. I just read you here's the top 10, or tied for the top 10. New Mexico, Army, Georgia Tech, Colorado State, Kansas, Navy, Rice, Duke, San Jose State, Wisconsin, Kansas State, Oklahoma State.
Yeah, none of those conference champions. Navy might have been the American champion. Anyway. And Army had a really good year. And then, of course, Kansas State had a really good year. But other than that,
the service academies don't run an offense that draws a lot of sacks. That's as much
kind of by design.
It's as much what they do as what they were able to accomplish from a protection standpoint.
But not really good teams in that list, with the exception of 3 or 4. So I definitely think it's under because of what you were just alluding to. A much better offensive line. Year 2 in the system, too, I think that we're going to see better decision-making from Devin Dampier. I would hope that means less interceptions when he's avoiding sacks, and what you were talking about, some of those negative plays that come. He didn't get a sack, but he did turn the ball over or whatever, miss an open guy as he was throwing it away. I would think that there's going to be less of that in year 2 in the offense, too. So I'll say under because, like you said, it would mean he would take more than double what he did with way less talented offensive line at New Mexico. Yes, though, his opponents are gonna be much better, so you're gonna have facing much better pass rushers, but you still got to believe in this in the talent of this offensive line at this point.
I wanted to set this at 4.5.
Yeah,
I set it at 9.5 because it was such a freak outlier year for New Mexico last year that it's just not realistic that you're going to expect a team or any team, any quarterback, any offensive line to team up for a number like that. In 2023, Oregon only gave up 5 sacks on the whole year. In 2022, Oregon only gave up 5 sacks on the year. In 2021, Army led the nation in sacks allowed at 7. Guess who was number 4 in 2021?
Was it Utah?
It was Utah.
Oh.
13 sacks allowed for the whole season in 2021.
It's amazing how that's one of the things that is like invisible. One of those stats that seems invisible, because as I was watching that team, I was not thinking, oh, they're not sacking Cam Rising very much, but apparently they didn't.
I mean, in 2021, 13 total sacks, 85 yards given up, less than a sack a game allowed.
And that speaks to what guys like Scott Mitchell and Sly were saying after the 2023 season, the first lost year for Cam Rising, as to how much better going into last season with a projected healthy Cam Rising, how much better the offensive line is going to look, because the quarterback is going to be much better at avoiding those negative plays, avoiding sacks and those kind of things. Because Cam was pretty elusive himself.
And he was really good at throwing on schedule.
Yeah.
Which is definitely a bigger part of not taking sacks, even than your athleticism and your escapability.
Yeah, I mean, think about Tom Brady in the NFL. That guy didn't get sacked very much. It wasn't because of his athletic ability.
Like Ben Roethlisberger didn't get sacked a lot because he was so hard to bring down. Tom Brady didn't get sacked a lot because Tom Brady didn't have the ball in his hand too long.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams didn't get sacked a lot because he was freakishly athletic. He would hold on to the ball way too long.
Yeah.
And most teams didn't get home to him that often. And even if they did, he had that wiggle. Man, he should have been sacked probably just in his 2 games against Utah. He probably should have been sacked 6 more times. Anyway, there's a lot of factors to it. Sacks allowed, over under 9.5 sacks allowed by Utah per game. New Mexico only gave up 5 last year with Dan Pierre at QB, 4 actually with him under center. 5 teams in the country gave up 10 or fewer per game, but again, does not necessarily translate directly to victories. Seems like it should, in any case. All right, we'll take another break here. The hot lunch is the over-under, which I think is most important for us to talk about. The reason a new offense was brought in was not to allow fewer sacks, was not to increase your rush yards per game. It was to put points on the board. We'll do an over-under, and I'll tell you how I got to the number I got to next on the Sean O'Connell Show. ESPN 700, 92 on FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN Radio Network. All this stress about whether or not Utah's going to have the season that you hope they have this year might be putting some frown lines, some wrinkles around the eyes. If you're worried about that, head down to the Steel Vault. If you and your spouse, you and your significant other have been fretting over whether or not Utah football can live up to your expectations, it's taken years off your life, put those years back on with the treatments available at Utah's premier medical spa. Smack dab in the middle of the holiday, thesteelvault.com. That's STEELE vault.com or 801-878-9976. Book a consultation online. 20% off treatments for our ESPN 700 listeners. Mention the Sean O'Connell Show when you go in and you book your appointments. Bald spots, gone. Hormone fluctuations, balanced. Maybe some red light therapy to create that cellular regeneration, give you a little bit better rest, make you feel fresher. I'm telling you, they can take care of all of it at the Steel Vault. 801-878-9976. 20% off just for mentioning the show. Hot lunch coming at you, and this is the most important over-under number I wanted to set. So last year, the University of Utah was bad offensively. As a scoring offense, nationally, if you want to find it, where they ranked, you got to scroll down way, way, way too far on the list. They were 14th in the Big 12 Conference, scoring 23.6 points per game. All right? Let's go ahead and just make it even. Let's add roughly a touchdown to that total. For 2025, do you think Jason Beck, Devin Dampier, this offensive line, Wayshawn Parker and company, Otto Tia moving to tight end, Hunter Andrews moving over to the offense, Creed Whittemore and company trying to get things done on the outside, Dadron Zipperer making the next step as an offensive player, can that offense give you an extra touchdown per game on the hill? 23.6 points per game last year. We'll just round it, make it conservative. We're going to say 31 points a game, over under 31 points a game for the University of Utah offense this year.
Man, see, if you would have said it at 29.5 or 30, I might say over, because that's the number. If they got to 30 points a game last year, OC, only a one-loss team if the games play out the exact way that they did.
Your record last year,
the Colorado game was the only game they gave up more than 30 points.
You only gave up more than, well, you gave up 31 to Arizona State. If you score 31 points a game, you go into overtime.
Yeah. There's Iowa State.
Sorry, Iowa State.
Yeah.
You go into
ASU
overtime.
was 27. Yeah.
You go into overtime in that game. So your record is either 11-1 or 10-2 if you score 31 points a game with last year's Utah football team. And last year's defense, by the way, was beat up, decimated, destroyed, and still kept you in those games. If you're scoring a touchdown more per game, which is a big ask, that is a hefty lift for Jason Beck to come in and be like, hey, man, you got to get us from being bad, 14th in the conference, to where do you think 31 points a game puts you in last year's Big 12 conference? And let's just assume that it's going to play out similarly this year.
I would say 4th or 5th. I'm going to say 5th.
Good enough for 8th.
8th, okay.
It's a heavy lift, but it's not an unreal, it's not like I'm telling you.
It goes from worst to middle of the pack.
I'm not telling you you've got to get this team to the number one scoring offense in the conference. Because with Morgan Scalley and Kyle Whittingham and that stalwart defense, the consistency on defense, what you're looking at is a touchdown per game making a massive difference. I mean, we're having completely different conversations about everything related to Utah football. The recruiting picture looks different. The NIL picture looks different. The future looks different because Kyle Whittingham probably retires on a high note last year. Morgan Scalley is probably running the show himself this year. Every single thing looks different.
They may not have even felt like they needed to bring in a new quarterback if that was the case. Think about that. Even though Isaac Wilson.
Well, yeah, and in my mind, I was thinking a touchdown more per game is the result of Cam Rising probably stayed healthy last year instead.
But they could have They could have gotten that from Isaac Wilson,
if
too.
If Isaac Wilson is the reason you're scoring an extra touchdown per game last year, then Devin Dampier, we'd never hear his name.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to say under, but I think it's still going to be around 30 points. I don't know if they get to over that much. I don't know if they get to 31 or more.
30 points a game makes you 10th in the conference last year. And
yeah, I'm
assuming similar numbers.
28 to a little over 30 a game is where I think they'll land this year. Because like you said, a whole touchdown more just seems like a huge ask.
I'm looking at, so 2024, I'm looking at the averages here for the whole conference, right? So 2024, the number one scoring offense was... I love doing this to James.
I know. I have no idea.
Because the thing is, you usually get more right than I think you're going to get right.
I know, and they're all guesses. I'm going to say Iowa State.
Texas Tech was the number one scoring offense, 37.6 points per game. Baylor was 2. TCU was 3. Arizona State had 32.9 points per game, as did Colorado.
TCU only scored 13 at Rice-Eccles Stadium, and they're still top 3.
BYU scored 31.2 points per game. Iowa State was 31.1. Kansas State was 30.8. UCF 30.4. Kansas 29.7. Houston scored a paltry 14 points per game last year. I'm not going to tell you what happened in their game against the Utes. So,
and no need to revisit that.
In 2023, 31 points a game makes you the 8th best team in the conference. In 2022, 31 points a game would have made Utah the 8th best team in the conference. In 2021, 31 points a game would have made Utah the 6th best team in the conference in the Big 12. So it's not an unrealistic ask. It's not elevating this offense to being even the top half of the conference, really. It's like you are the midpoint if you score 31 points per game.
You think it's over?
I don't know. I'm probably kind of in the same boat you are, where it's like, man, 28 points a game, I would absolutely take the over. 31 points a game, but it's a touchdown. Do I think that Jason Beck and Devin Dampier and this offensive line are going to give this team an extra touchdown per game? And not just those names I mentioned, but do I think better luck with the health picture gives them more than a touchdown advantage per game than what they had last year? I think, yeah. So I'm going to take the over here.
Okay. With
hesitance.
Yeah.
And maybe I should have said it at 30.5.
I mean, that's why it's a good over under though. If you're like, that's close to what I would predict, but I don't think I can go over with much confidence. That's a sign of a good over under.
No, I'm changing it to 30.5. How about that?
Over. Just kidding. No, I still think
points per game over under 30.5. If you hit the over, so you're at 31 points a game, that's good enough for 8th in the Big 12 conference last year, 41 nationally.
And under is 9th or 10th, right?
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. You're right there. And by the way, we talked about this many, many, many times. Even if you score 30 points a game, you're 10-2. If you score 31 points a game, you're going into overtime with a chance to be 11-1 or 10-2.
Make a field goal, you're going into overtime anyway.
This is
rough ending to that Iowa State game.
This is a team that needs a touchdown per game more. And by the way, it's not even in every single game. You were 5 touchdowns away from being a 10-win team last year. In timely manner in certain games. You had all those one-score games, including a one-score and 2-point conversion game.
I was about to say the ASU maybe it's 9. It potentially 9-3 even if you get those, because you still got to get that 2-point conversion to tie that one, and put that one into overtime. But it's like so close to being a much better team. And
by the way, being at that game in Tempe last year, I did the sidelines for that game. If you score and if the touchdown is not negated by the penalty, I don't think Arizona State rallies the same way. I just don't like.
You felt like momentum was on Utah's side.
if they score that touchdown and they take a lead with whatever that was, like 3.5 minutes left, I just think that it's a totally different game. And the defense almost held even after that happened.
They did. I mean, Scattaboo kind of gave Utah another chance too by not running the clock out, by not sliding and letting it, and be like, let's take some knees here, or instead housing it. So yeah, so many chances to win that game, and so many other games that they lost last year.
So 30.5, we're going to take 30.5 with the over-under. Go Utes on Twitter says the sacks allowed over-under 9.5, taking the under.
All right.
You've got your numbers for rush yards per game, sacks allowed, and points per game for this Utah offense.
You gonna throw out your Venmo or Cash App to actually take some of these bets, bookie OC?
I don't think you can do that on air legally. You want to throw out?
Great answer.
I don't think we're really allowed to do that.
Not in the state of Utah, anyway.
James Peterson will take your bets on his Venmo at James hyphen Peterson 25. Whatever is that your Venmo? That'd be a great guess if I got.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Oh wow!
Allegedly, that might be close.
Well, here's the thing. Someone's gonna walk in and fire James during this break. So I'll do my best to keep the show going.
I was testing you for anyone who might be coming in to do that. I was testing OC to make sure he was aware of the gambling laws in our great state.
All right. Adrian Denny's going to join us next. We go between the pipes, talk a little Utah Mammoth. My first question is going to have nothing to do with hockey. It's going to have nothing to do with rotations or ice time or goals scored or anything like that. I got a fashion question, but it's an important one. Utah's number one sports talk, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. We go between the pipes with Adrian Denny, brought to you by Angora and Aladdin Industries. Our Utah Mammoth insider, Adrian Denny's been very, very busy for Mammoth Week, all up and down the Wasatch Front and beyond. Little outreach, little PR for the Utah Mammoth. Adrian, welcome to the studio. How are you?
Thanks, OC. Lots and lots of spray sunscreen is what the message is this week. And so far, we've been lucky. Up in Logan Saturday, had some cloud cover in Park City yesterday. But Monday night in Provo was beaten down. And we've got Cottonwood Heights tonight.
All right.
Cottonwood Heights Rec Center. Ogden tomorrow. And then we got Enoch / Cedar City on Friday, St. George on Saturday. So gonna need to keep spraying the sunscreen, the SPF 150 for me.
You're gonna finish real hot down there in St. George.
Yeah,
that's great.
So we're having a blast. It's our mobile fan fest.
How's
going
it been?
From city to city. Everybody's come. Had a great time. We've got some on ice stuff, some learn to play, some hockey clinics, and food trucks, and folks can come. We've got photo booths. We've got face painting. You can make bracelets. You can play NHL 25. We've got that. So everything is
on like PlayStation, Xbox.
Yeah, we've got stations
awesome.
for that. And so come out. Twinning with Tanev is probably our most popular photo booth. It's a Polaroid frame with one of his headshots, and you can see how you do.
Nice.
With a smile. Our president of hockey operations, Chris Armstrong, stepped into that booth yesterday in Park City.
Love it. That's really cool. The biggest reveal that we're gonna get to our start bench cut with Adrian, by the way, here in just a second. But we had a huge reveal for the Utah Mammoth this week that flew under the radar for a lot of people. But I have said this on air many, many, many times. I will die on this hill. One of the greatest things in professional sports and one of the most unique things in professional sports is the artistic expression afforded to goaltenders through their masks and, a reminder from Veggie this week, through their pads. Karel Vejmelka released the look of his pads that are just absolutely sick. I wish there was more of a visual element to our show. I wish we were like a Pat McAfee style where everyone was also watching us so I could put the graphic up. But he's got the mammoth silhouettes on the pads, on the blocker, everywhere. Just it's an absolute thing of beauty here, Adrian.
It's a prelude, I think, to what's really going to come, and that's his mask. We saw his mask last year with the tribute to the dinosaurs in Utah.
In fact, Veggie, if there's a way you want to earn some money for a charity that you love, put that mask up for auction. Your boy's going to put a hefty tag on. I will buy that thing. I'm a big dinosaur guy.
Yeah. Game
worn, dinosaur painted, inaugural season Utah Hockey Club mask with that theme. I'm spending some money on that.
Yeah.
For a good charitable cause.
It was really, really cool. And it reminds me, OC, at Mammoth Week, we've got a set of Veggie's gear that you can try on. We don't have the dinosaur mask. We have the first mask that he wore this season with the pads and the blocker and the glove. And you can throw that on and see how it feels. And, depending on your size, the 9 and 10-year-olds, it's a lot, but it'll fit regardless. But yeah, pads, you see a lot of splotches. You see, the team's primary colors mixed in on the pads, but it's not every day. Maybe 2 or 3 sets of gear in the whole NHL have the full identity. And our Mammoth logo that we unveiled in May, to see this on the left pad, the right pad, the two mammoths, if you will, clashing on the pads. That's pretty awesome. And I can't wait to see his mask, because if the pads are like this, the mask
oh my
is gonna
gosh,
take it to another level.
The mask is going to be so sick. I cannot wait to see what it looks like. But Veggie, go check it out. NHL Utah's got it. It's a Brogan Houston, who's a big guest of ours, tweeted it. I've retweeted it. They're beautiful. They're a thing of beauty, and you should take a look at them. And I don't know, they got to create like a a retail item that we can like a foam finger version of this, but instead have the kids walking around with like foam finger pads on their legs or something, dress up like Veggie.
How about Veggie really kind of preluding our name with the prehistoric dinosaurs last year? We had mammoth at the same time, and he kind of foreshadowed what actually happened. How about that?
I love it. It's great. It's absolutely phenomenal. All right, let's talk a little start bench cut. I know you came in prepared for this. The also rans of the Adam Sandler filmography. I omitted Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison because those are the classics. Everyone loves those. He's got a bunch of other movies that you look at and you say, all right, I like that. I had to narrow it down to 3. I used some metrics of grossing, not even box office, but also streaming, etc. By the way, his Hotel Transylvania movies, he's done 3 of them, the animated ones. You've seen any of these? You know what I'm talking about?
Know the voice. I can't say that I've actually sat down and watched it, but I've passed through, flipped through, heard the voice.
Okay, so there's 3 of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much money do you think that those movies generated, all 3 put together, for Adam Sandler's Happy Madison Productions?
This is going to be either really good or really bad.
What do you think?
Oh, gosh. A dollar figure you're looking for.
Yeah, just like
$30 million.
$1.4 billion of revenue generated by those 3 movies. They're his top grossing products ever in the entire catalog. Hotel Transylvania, Hotel Transylvania 2, Hotel Transylvania 3 did over $500 million for the 3rd. And by the way, my daughters love it. So I guess I'm part of that. Anyway, crazy, right? Okay, so starting bench and cutting, 50 First Dates, Big Daddy, Waterboy.
Really excited for your feedback on this.
Okay.
Start Big Daddy, bench Waterboy, cut 50 First Dates.
Can't. I love 50 First Dates. I'm cutting Big Daddy. I'm starting 50 First Dates, and I'm benching Waterboy.
For me, it was you can't cut everybody with Waterboy and 50 First Dates.
Really?
Big Daddy. I think I actually watched it a couple times. I think I had the DVD of it.
They're all good. They're all excellent. 50 First Dates. Any movie that's got a Hawaiian theme or Hawaiian, like I'm automatically going to like it a little bit more because I love Hawaii so much. By the way, little scare last night. The tsunami warnings.
I was going to be in Hawaii this week on a family vacation, and my brother had some stuff come up at work in between us saying, okay, this is our week, and booking the trip. And we're like, okay, you can't go. We're not going. And so I've been thinking, like, where would we be? Would we have been leaving this morning and have to reschedule it all anyway?
Yeah.
With the tsunami warnings from last night that had everything kind of put on hold for a little bit.
I mean, there was some issues. If you saw, I was following along closely because it was the first wave was supposed to hit at like, I think it was 11:17 our time PM, right? It was supposed to hit like 7-something Hawaii time. And I'm watching the webcam, the surf cam at Bonsai Pipeline, which is one of the most iconic surf breaks. And that beach, no matter the time of day, time of year, there's always people on that beach. It was empty because, of course, people were like, well, I'm not going to be on the beach when there's Waimea Bay. Empty. The sand that is never empty was totally empty. People were up on the cliffs watching, waiting, holding breath to see if this tsunami was going to come in and take out. I mean, you didn't. If a giant wave had hit the North Shore like it was supposed to, like the projected, that is like, thankfully everyone had time to get out of the way, but that would have been hundreds of billions of dollars worth of damage. Turtle Bay Resort, all that stuff's up there. Anyway, glad it didn't happen. Shout out to everyone in Hawaii. Yeah. Obviously, a lot of people here have family out there and stuff, so huge relief. Do you remember 8 years ago when there was a nuclear missile scare in Hawaii? Did you ever hear about that? James, have we talked about this on the air before? So I was in Hawaii. I had my wife's engagement ring in my pocket. I was planning on proposing that day, okay? We wake up, my buddy who lives out there lets me stay in this beautiful rental property that he manages. It's right on the beach. It's like heaven, okay? We wake up to effectively like, you know, when your phone's on silent, but it still does the wah, wah, wah. It's like Amber alerts you or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was this government warning text message saying, hey, imminent threat, nuclear missile inbound from North Korea or something crazy. Seek shelter immediately. And I'm just like, what? What the heck is this? It went out. Everyone on the island got it. And we were like, okay, so I called my family. She called her family. We're like, we don't know if this is legit. We don't know what's going on, but love you. And then it was like, are we going to die? And it was all just a false alarm, obviously, but scary.
You hear the stories, right, of the proposals. Like you can't reach your dad. You are out to dinner and you forget your wallet. Your car gets towed. That has to be the best, the biggest nightmare one I've ever heard.
I will say this. We postponed the proposal itself to the next day because a little bit too emotionally rattled. But
yeah, that's that's not one of those things. All right, let's take the edge off here a little bit.
All right. Anyway, we thought we were about to die, so you want to get married? All right. Back to the matter at hand. Mammoth Week happening up and down, and you know Adrian has been a big part of it. Players and the sort of outreach program that we're just now, like, really starting the drip campaign of what this team has meant or will mean, I should say, to this community. What do you think? Like, as you're on the streets, as you're meeting these people, as you're sort of like a part of this education process, where are we at in terms of like people fully embracing the Mammoth, ready to buy tickets, season tickets? It's a family thing that they're going to absolutely make part of the sports culture here in Utah.
My biggest thing so far for Mammoth Week, and we've been to Logan, Provo, Park City, is the first thing. Everybody there's excited, and everybody there, it seems like the highlight of their summer, which it is for us. Just to, try on Veggies gear, go to the Twinning with Tanev booth, and then you've got everybody, the kids inside skating around. So it's just the excitement and the folks being just grateful that the NHL is here in Utah. So that's the first thing. The second thing, OC, is that everybody who comes, and we're out at community ice rinks, and it's public space, and so a lot of our people there just happen to be driving by and see a party going on and stop off. But everybody has watched. Everybody's listened. Folks have been to games. They knew that it was Clayton Keller's birthday yesterday. It's that people know, and people were a part of year one, and they're excited for year number two. It's not, oh, what's going on here? Oh, Utah has an NHL team? It's people know, and they've watched, they've listened, they've been to games, and they're starving for more.
So I've been setting some over-unders for Utah football for the upcoming season, having a little bit of fun with that. And since we're on that theme for now, the Utah Hockey Club, now to be the Utah Mammoth, their average goals per their goals per game average, I should say, last year was what? Just under 3. We were sitting at 2.93 per game. There's not a massive gap between where they're at, 20th in the league versus the number one team in the league, 3.5 goals per game. Tampa Bay, Washington, they were at 3.5 goals per game, effectively. where does this team need to get to be the playoff team? We're not talking about them yet as Stanley Cup contenders. Where does this team need to get to in terms of goals per game in order to be where they should be in year 5 of the rebuild? Now it's time to make the playoffs, as we've talked about so many times.
Over 3, right? You always want to be over 3, and I think I feel good saying 3.25 goals a game is something that is in the reach for next year. I think our analytics from last season in goals expected, we had more scoring chances that looked like they were going to be goals than we had goals. Lawson Krause was a player that was particularly snake bit, had 20 goal seasons in 3 straight years, didn't get there last year. So I think we're going to see a sizable increase this year. And I'd set it at 3.08 and is the over under, and I'd take 3.19.
Okay.
Thinking in my gut it's going to be about 3.25.
Okay, 3.25 would be good for 9th in the league in last year.
Yeah.
Obviously. We'll see how it plays out in this upcoming cycle. That's enough to get you at least into the playoffs. Is it enough to win you a playoff series, you think?
That's the biggest thing. It's going from regular season to playoff mode. And can you adjust in a 7-round, first-round playoff series against a team that's been in the playoffs before? Are you gonna be able to jump right in and split the first 2 games on the road, right? Are you going to be able to hang with them? Because it usually takes a year of being in the playoffs to get that feel, to take that pain, to go back with it and be like, okay, now we're ready for the playoffs. Now we're in playoff mode. Went to the regular season, had a good regular season, qualified for the playoffs, had that good first round, but can we push over the top against a team that's been in the playoffs before to win that series?
So, Adrian Denny, by the way, talking Utah Mammoth between the pipes here on the Sean O'Connell Show. We haven't really settled into the rhythm of NHL like we know the rhythm of college football.
Mm-hmm.
Camp starts today.
Mm-hmm.
NFL football, you know, when training camp and OTAs and all that stuff are. This time of year for the Mammoth players, coaches, front office staff, obviously you're very busy right now doing this Mammoth Week. What does it look like for the guys who are actually going to be skating right now in late summer?
So they're on their own. They're working out. They have the plans that the performance team's given them. So typically looks like whether they're spending the summer here or back in Minnesota, Toronto, where they're from, it's wake up, skate, work out, and just stay in shape. A lot of guys will take a week or 2 off when the season ends and then back to work, and it's pretty much a Monday through Friday schedule, just like during the season. The training and the skating, except in the summer for the hockey guys, then that's where they add in plenty of golf in the afternoons.
Oh, golf. So many professional athletes, that's like their outlet. I don't understand.
I'm so glad to hear you say that.
I'm not a golf guy,
I'm
man.
not either.
It's because I'm terrible at it. I fully admit that. If I was any good at it at all, I'm sure I would like it the way that most people do, but I'm terrible.
The whole thing just makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah,
all of it.
That's fair.
All of it. So and nobody ever has that same sentiment as you. So I feel good hearing that.
All right, last thing before I let you go, we were talking about, one of the great stars in the NBA, Luka Doncic, it seems like finally taking his body seriously, right? And the question of whether that's because of the influence of LeBron James or it's because it's a spite body. He's mad at the Dallas Mavericks, so he's showing them, oh, all right, you don't think I'm serious? Watch this, whatever. Kind of doesn't matter. The results are there. He's lean. He's mean. And it creates a conversation about professional athletes and taking care of their bodies. And again, we're new-ish to the NHL. So what does that look like for a lot of these guys? Because in the NBA, yes, it's a contact sport. It's not a collision sport. the schedule in the NHL is as demanding, but the actual game itself has to be a lot harder on your body. I see so many hockey players where I'm like, that guy probably has a beer during intermission and eats a hot dog, but then I don't think you can actually get away with that anymore. So the players that you've talked to, how close you are to all this, what does that look like for NHL players? How much time, effort, energy, money goes into taking care of the body?
Yeah, it's in the last 5-10 years in everything. The sports science has just gotten, I don't want to say so over the top, but so next level. Like, I remember 10, 15 years ago with the Grizzlies in the ECHL, and it's a different level, but you hear stuff. You hear coaches being talking like so-and-so's out of shape. I can't believe this, right? We're 40 games in and so-and-so's still out of shape. And I haven't heard any of that in the last 5-10 years because it's so dialed. They're being paid so well, and the team is giving them such a detailed plan that take the week or two off and then you're back to work. But it has been a long, long time since I heard a coach, a trainer, a GM under their breath, because you talk off the record and you hear stuff. It has been a long time since I've heard anybody say anything about a hockey player coming to camp out of shape or being half the season in. It's, how is so-and-so still out of shape?
I don't even know how that would be physically possible to be out of shape halfway through a season. I do see how you could come in off the golf course and just be like, I'll play my way into shape. We see that in the NFL all the time. You see that, I think, in the NBA. There was a lot of conversation around Jokic that way and around Doncic that way. So
and with this team this year in training camp in particular, if someone was to say to come to camp and not be ready to go, not be able to play in game action at what they were last year, they're going to be put on waivers with the intent of being sent to the AHL, because there's going to be guys, as there is every year, that played in the NHL last year across the board. All 32 teams come to camp, are what they were last year, and don't make the team, end up on waivers and get set to the AHL.
All right, we're up against the break here, so thank you again for coming in. And if you get wind or get to see Veggie's new mask before the rest of us, let's just make an agreement, just between us. All right?
Yes.
You take a picture of it, you send it over.
Send it over. I will. And it's hard to do that because these companies that do the painting and stuff, there's always leaks. They all have their own Instagram accounts. It's like they scoop the player with the mask. Well, I think we just saw it with the pads.
Yeah. Well, you got to get the clicks.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
But the second I see it, I'll get it over.
Love that. Thanks for coming in as always. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, OC. Thanks for having me, man.
Between the Pipes, Adrian Denny, brought to you by Angora and Aladdin Industries here on Utah's #1 Sports Talk. Another Ute on another watch list. I'll tell you who, tell you what position. We'll decide how prestigious this one could be if said Utah player wins it. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on Utah's #1 Sports Talk, ESPN 700. Got some junk mail today. Keeler McJunkin, SID up there for Utah football, who's going to get real busy this time of year. Our very own Porter Larson already gathering sound from the coordinators. Morgan Scally, Jason Beck made available today as Utah football begins practice for 2025 Camp Kyle. Kyle Whittingham will address us later today. Sounds like right around 5 o'clock, so we'll have some of that sound for you on tomorrow's show. The junk mail today was another Ute on another watch list. This the 2025 Butkus Award. Every single year, the Butkus Foundation awards the Butkus Award, the Dick Butkus Award, to the top linebacker in all of college football. They do a 51-player list that they eventually narrow down, of course. There's a 51-member selection committee comprised of coaches, scouts, journalists, evaluating the qualities that define Dick Butkus's illustrious career: toughness, leadership, competitiveness, football character, and traditional linebacking skills. So there's 51 guys on the preseason watch list for the Butkus Award. That's big. Alabama's got 2 guys on the list. Clemson's got 2 guys on the list. Georgia's got 2 guys on the list. LSU's got 2 on the list. Michigan, Mississippi, that's Ole Miss. Notre Dame, Ohio State, Oregon, Pittsburgh, Texas, and that's it. All have 2 individuals on the Butkus Award watch list. I like that because it means they're going to split their votes, okay? So when you make an Alabama guy, an Ohio State guy, and a Michigan guy, one of their teammates also on the watch list, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to win it.
Yeah, if a certain Ute's going to come up the middle and get home if you split your votes like that.
Lander Barton is on the list. Guess who else? Guess what other team has 2 guys on the list? BYU. Jack Kelly, Isaiah Glasker on the Butkus Award watch list.
Can't really argue with that.
You can't.
No. Utah. So Lander's the only one from Utah.
Lander's the only one from Utah. Levani Damuni is probably in that next tier, you would imagine.
I would think that if he did not miss all of last season, he'd probably be getting some of these preseason recognition, but tough when you miss a whole year and you go out of the consciousness of everybody, including these awards, to get recognized like this.
Did you know that there's a Butkus Award handed out to a college player, which is the one we talk about all the time, and they also award this Butkus selection committee gives one to a high school player and to a professional player.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
And it's all best linebacker at those levels.
Yeah. So Jalen Walker of Georgia ended up being selected 15th by the Atlanta Falcons in this draft. He won it for the college award last year. A young man named Christian Jones from Omaha, who's now at the University of Nebraska, won it for the high school award. And Zach Bond of the Philadelphia Eagles, who had an unbelievable year.
He really did.
In a contract year that he was like kind of like a fringe guy almost. Ended up being one of the best linebackers, well, according to the Butkus Foundation, the best linebacker in the NFL. So I didn't know that.
That's cool. I didn't know that they, and maybe this is officially recognized as one of the NFL awards, right? But I didn't know that outside foundations were allowed to give best player at whatever position award in a pro league.
Should we start doing that?
Let's do it.
Should we make like an O'Connell Award?
Yeah.
Make it incredibly prestigious.
How about the Shawnees?
Be like, hey, just randomly call some NFL all-star. Congratulations, Josh Allen. Oh, what? You've won the Sean O'Connell Award for the NFL this year. He's like, oh, cool. Thanks. What is that?
No, he's too afraid to. He's too afraid to be impolite to ask what it is.
Yeah, actually, he seems like he's such a nice guy. Like, have you seen all the videos of him at camp, signing all the autographs and like they have like the special area for the special needs fans.
Yeah.
And he goes up and he spends extra time talking to them and things like that. And it's just so heartwarming and wonderful to see. The one I saw either earlier today or maybe it was last night. He started to run away, like he needed to get to practice, or maybe he was leaving practice and needed to get to the locker room. And this little girl that he was about to sign her autograph. She was the next one, and he left. She started crying.
Oh no!
And so he's like, "Oh no!" And he ran back. He ran back and signed hers, but then he got stuck for like another 20 minutes.
Oh no!
Yeah, I mean,
you love that though. You totally understand. And when you become an adult who follows sports or is a sports fan, you understand even more, obviously. But you totally understand guys are like, I don't have time to sign or talk to everybody.
Yes.
But you love that guys like Josh Allen, he's now definitely a veteran in the NFL, an MVP, and one of the 2 or 3 best quarterbacks in the league. He has all the status to be able to say, no, you can't take any more of my time, but he's not jaded enough to feel that sensitivity of, oh, that girl's crying, they're screaming because I miss them. Goes back and does it. You love that.
You know what's crazy is like the problem is, and it's not a problem, it's a blessing for these guys to have that notoriety and to have fans and all that stuff. But when you do take the extra minute to have that interaction, take the selfie,
into a half hour.
It turns into half an hour. And by the way, these guys have families, and sometimes they have friends that like want to go to lunch with them, and they're just like, dude, come on, what are you doing? And
we get it. People know you.
People love you. You're the coolest. But Josh, that might be the award we give Josh Allen.
Nicest guy award.
He's just like, thank you. Thank you?
Well, you're known. I'm known as a really nice guy, so I think it would fit.
That actually, that'd be the greatest award.
The Shawnee.
It's for being the nicest guy. People are like, you're not even that nice. What do you mean?
I saw you boop that guy in the pre-fight shenanigans.
You're not known for being nice. Why are you giving the nice guy award? What are you talking about? I'm very nice.
Yeah, you're not talking to the right people.
Excuse me. I'm incredibly nice, and I'll prove it to you if you don't shut up by punching you in the face how nice I am. Anyway.
My wife, by the way, she decided she didn't have an NFL team, so I think 3 or 4 years ago, she decided to roll with the Bills. She calls Josh Allen Joshy.
She calls him Joshy?
Yeah.
Did she choose that because he's so handsome, or what was the
No, it
impetus?
was, so here's how the conversation went. She's like, I think I need an NFL team, just randomly. And I'm like, okay, cool. And she's like, I want it to be different than yours, so I'm not going to pick the Colts. I'm like, okay, fine. You've offended me greatly, but fine. And she's like, what about the Broncos? And I kind of looked at her sideways like, just about everybody here is a Broncos fan.
Yeah.
Like maybe
can't jump on the bandwagon.
Maybe pick something else. And I would have said the same thing for the Niners too, because it's maybe you're brand new. Let's pick a team that not everybody here likes, right? Even though I like the Niners more, your Niners more than I like the Broncos. She goes, well, I want a team that's not terrible, that's like on the rise, but not necessarily considered to be on the bandwagon. I said, well, I really like the Bills. And so she's like, okay, Bills, here we go. And now she's like, she doesn't watch regular season games with me, but the playoff games, she like lives and dies with them.
Have you gotten her like the Zubas pants?
I have not yet. She's like, I think I need to get merch.
Got a folding table and thrown her through it yet?
We need to actually have her become a Bills fan. You're right. She can't say she's part of Bills Mafia until we do something like that.
You know what an incredible shock it would be if Nice Guy James walked in one day.
Oh, I'm known as Nice Guy. Okay.
And you're just like, honey, I got to slam you through a folding table in order for you to be a Bills fan. She'd be like, what are you talking about? Bills Mafia, baby, let's go.
I'm like, watch these 1,000 videos of drunken Bills fans breaking tables.
What a weird thing for them to get into. Anyway,
it really is. But
back to the Butkus
shout out to
Award.
Joshy.
Shout out to Joshy. Back to the Butkus Award. Isaiah Glasker, Jack Kelly, Keaton Thomas from Baylor, Keyshawn Elliott from Arizona State, Austin Romaine from Kansas State, Lander Barton from Utah, of course, Brian McCoy from Oklahoma State, Caleb Elarms-Orr from TCU, and Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech. 9 guys from the Big 12 Conference on the list, 51 total to honor Dick Butkus's number 51 jersey, 51 members of the selection committee. Lander Barton has to convince those people that he deserves a Butkus Award.
Now, at this time last year, you in particular, but I was with you on the Lander Barton hype last year that we were trying to drum up. We probably would have said he's a shoo-in to win the award. This year, I'm not sure.
Yeah. This award, by the way, goes back to 1985. It's a relatively it doesn't have the same deep history.
So it's like the Remington Award then for centers. Okay.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. And they've been giving the professional award only since 2008.
Okay. Maybe.
And the high school version of the award only since 2008.
Okay. Maybe that took them the foundation that long to convince the NFL, hey, we want to be the one to give out your best linebacker award.
Okay. You know what's actually really interesting to look at with the high school one? The first winner of the high school award was Manti Te'o.
Oh.
It worked out.
Yeah.
They did a good job recognizing his talent.
Yeah.
A bunch of these other guys, you don't really know who they are, even from like a college football world. Like there's some that are now NFL players. In 2018, Nakobe Dean won it. In 2013, Raekwon McMillan won it. Justin Flo he ended up going to Oregon and then UCLA, right? Or USC. He won it in 2019, but they haven't necessarily hit home runs with the high school winners of the Butkus Award in terms of guys who are going to move on and be great.
And counterpoint is they were great at the level they gave out the award. We don't care if they're. We don't care.
I mean, I kind of do.
What happens afterwards?
I kind of care.
I do too.
When they're like, "Hey, you're an All-American high school player," and then that All-American high school player like never gets to start a college game, I'm like, he wasn't an All-American then. He played for a cool team and had good politics.
Yeah,
that's how I feel.
He gamed the system.
I'm gonna put you on the spot because it's one of my favorite things to do.
I love that it gives you so much pleasure.
The last person at a current Big 12 school to win the Butkus Award.
All right, current Big 12 school. It's got to be a Texas or Oklahoma or current Big 12 school.
Big 12 school. Sorry.
Yeah, got to be. I actually have no idea.
Yeah, there's absolutely no way.
I can't even think of what school it might be from.
It's Colorado in 1996, Matt Russell.
Okay.
And
shout out to Matt Russell.
Before that, Alfred Williams of Colorado won it in 1990.
Shout out to Matt Russell, a cousin of jazz great Brian Russell, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably. Probably that. I mean, this is Texas has had a winner, and the Big 12 Conference is not exactly a linebacker conference, James.
Well, it should be easy for Lander to win then this year.
Let's go. I think that actually works against him. You're telling me Illinois got 2 winners of this?
Come on.
And the Big 12 only has 2?
I can only think of one Illinois player in the history of Illini football. You know, even not even guy from last year I can think of. You know who it is?
Who?
Juice Williams.
Okay.
Do you remember Juice Williams?
I don't remember Juice Williams at all.
He was the quarterback, one of their only good years but in recent history, and a great nickname, obviously.
Oh, okay. All right.
From 2007, I think.
So the last...
Ron Zook was the head coach.
The last 5 winners, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah from Notre Dame, Nakobe Dean from Georgia, Jack Campbell from Iowa, Peyton Wilson from NC State, Jalen Walker from Georgia. Nakobe Dean, by the way, pulling the rare double. He won the high school award and the college award.
And one day he will win the pro award.
Will he, though?
Maybe. All right. is I feel like Iowa, even though it's known as like tight end U, I feel like that's not surprising at all that an Iowa linebacker won it recently.
Yeah, Jack Campbell was a great linebacker at Iowa. He's the only winner from Iowa.
Really? Okay. I would have guessed more.
Oklahoma has a bunch. Oklahoma had Brian Bosworth twice. The first two went to the Boz. Rocky Kalmus in 2001, Teddy Lehman in 2003. And Notre Dame's had Manti Te'o. They had Jalen Smith. They had Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Let's see if we go back farther for Notre Dame. Yeah. So the
Utah hasn't had one.
Utah hasn't had one. BYU hasn't had one, and the only current Big 12 school that has had one has two, and it's Colorado had two, going all the way back to 1996, and then 1990 before that.
It feels impossible. I just thought of this. I wonder if there are any schools in the FBS that have not had anyone on the watch list. It feels impossible with the amount of people they put on these watch lists. That would be interesting needle.
So let's see. How many years? Okay, 1985 was 40 years ago, right? 51 players per year on the watch list.
There's no way there's a school out there that's never had a guy on the watch list.
I bet there is. I bet like Western Kentucky or someplace like that.
Maybe I should say Power 4 or 5. Because you're right. Group of 5, they probably get left off of this quite a bit.
I can tell you something. I am not going to go through the historical lists and figure out if there's been one or not.
I'll do it in my spare time.
We could probably ask AI.
My non-existent spare time.
If I was willing to use AI, right, I would do it, but I'm not willing to use AI.
Just out of principle.
I'm going to be the last one.
We like our jobs, AI.
I'm going to be the last one to be like, hey, Grok, is this true? I'm going to keep asking Gronk.
Hey, what would Allen Iverson know about the Butkus Award anyway?
How many times have you used that joke in people, like in public with people, and had them just be like, wait, what?
Who's Allen Iverson?
Lander Barton on the Butkus Award watch list. The Downtown Athletic Club of Orlando is the one that hands this bad boy out, and the Butkus Foundation.
Of course they do, because you think of Dick Butkus, you think of Orlando and the Downtown Club for sure.
Absolutely. 100%. Sean O'Connell Show continues. We've got Bowler joining us in about 6 minutes. We'll do another segment first on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. 801-850-9100. That's how you get a hold of our friends at Advanced Windows, Advanced Window Products. It's a local company that creates high-quality replacement windows with the best materials available. And when I say the best materials available, I mean that Nate Orchard, Jake Weber, and the rest, they go source these things and keep you updated with not only the best glass, not only the best vinyl, they find the best gas that goes between the panes of the windows to make sure you don't have that moisture, that condensation. They get the right seal. When a new piece of equipment comes out that makes the factory a little bit more efficient, they make sure they invest in that thing. They're staying at the cutting edge of window technology, and they're doing it so that you get the best windows possible. Give them a call today, 801-850-9100. $2,500 off, 10 windows or more. Tell them OC sent you. They're going to hook you up. Let them measure the windows. Let them tell you how much the windows are going to cost. Let them give you the financing options. They have plenty of financing options. And when you're considering the cost, because, of course, there's going to be an expense in replacing the windows, also remember that you're offsetting that cost with energy savings and with an increased value to your home. Better curb appeal, better peace of mind, knowing that you now have windows that are not going to leak hot air, cold air, water, certainly. It's time, if you've got old windows, to give them a call. 801-850-9100 or advancedwindows.com. $2,500 off, 10 windows or more for our ESPN 700 listeners. I don't like giving bad news, especially on the start of fall camp for the University of Utah. One of the all-time Utah greats, Zach Moss, has been released by the Cincinnati Bengals. He signed a 2-year deal with the Bengals back in 2024 that was worth $8 million. He restructured that deal down to $1.7 million in 2025. This is going to cost the Bengals 1.9-ish in dead money against their salary cap. But in 8 games last year, Moss had 242 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's been dealing with a neck injury. He started training camp on the non-football injury list because of the neck injury last season. And the prognosis hasn't been adequate for Cincinnati to want to keep him around. They got Samaje Perine, and they drafted Taj Brooks from Texas Tech last year. So Cincinnati moving on from Zach Moss.
It's tough news because he is a Utes legend. Tough news for a lot of people around here, but also because he had a really good breakout year with the Colts the season before he signed this deal, I guess 2 years ago, when he had the opportunity when Jonathan Taylor missed some games with injury to step in, and he stepped up. And to the point where the Bengals were like, we don't need Joe Mixon. We don't need to pay him. We'll sign Zach Moss to a much more economical deal. And unfortunately, he has the neck injury, and it's over for him, at least with the Bengals. Hopefully, he gets another chance soon because it seemed like there was some real momentum, OC, for his NFL career after his season with the Colts a couple years ago.
The good news is that he's put in enough time that I think he's vested. And the better news is that even if, it starts to be more difficult for him to find gainful employment in the National Football League, Zach Moss is a dude who's incredibly intelligent, incredibly charismatic. He's earned a really good nest egg of money for himself. He's got a future no matter what he wants to do. And, I think minus what comes off the books for this, this cut effectively being released here, he's still looking at about $7.5 million worth of career earnings. I know it's not the big, sexy $100 million numbers, but all of us know that is a really nice way to start your life off when you're only 27 years old.
Yeah, if he's invested well, if he's saved well, he should be just fine for the rest of the time, for the rest of his earning, his career of needing his work earning span, I guess is the way I'll say it. Should be just fine. That's a good amount of money.
So fingers crossed that Zach Moss, first of all, the neck heals all the way, and then, of course, that he ends up landing on another NFL team. Take a quick one here. We start out number 3 with Craig Bolerjack. Buckle up for Bowler on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Big day in Utah sports. BYU starting football camp. Utah starting fall football camp. We kind of really round into the true offseason of the NBA as personnel pretty much set, although Jonathan Kuminga is still making some headlines. Craig Bolerjack, it's been a minute. We're glad to catch up with Bowler here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Bowler, how are you, sir? It's been a minute.
Yeah, OC, I'm doing good. Just kind of waiting for Jazz camp to open. I'm excited about college, excited about the NFL Hall of Fame game. So we're making that slight turn, right, into football. And, of course, the NBA follows along with hockey now in this city. So, hey, it's, enjoy the summer, but it's almost August. Hard to believe.
I know. Summer's about over, man, especially with kids going back to school. They go back to school in 2 weeks. Bowler, I swear when I was young, the first day of school was never until like Labor Day weekend. And now we're August 15th or something. It's crazy.
You know what I hated? Because we did the same thing and in college, but they brought us back for a week. And then they say, go away for a week, right, for Labor Day. I go, man, I don't want to start this up twice, but, it kind of turned out that way. It's crazy. But, no, it's a fun time, football especially, and then we'll get into the NBA later. But, nothing like having camps open. And like I said, the NFL is just around the corner with the Hall of Fame game.
Before we get into any of that, before we look forward, let's look back at Summer League. And, we haven't really recapped, at least the two of us together, Jazz produced the Summer League MVP. You got some good reps out of young guys, out of the sophomore class especially, if that's the right way to say it. Just your thoughts on Summer League relative to expectations, what you saw from the Jazz talent. I know we all would have liked to have seen a little bit more from Ace, but what'd you think?
Well, first you got to go with Filipowski, right? I mean, that's quite an honor to be able to win the Las Vegas Summer League MVP award. So that put a lot of eyes on him, OC. I think obviously builds confidence too, and we'll see how that translates in his sophomore season. I've got some high hopes for him. I mean, he could be a great, steal at the 32 spot, early second round, back in 24. So, I think the Jazz are anxious to see how he plays. Obviously, you saw a lot of Isaiah Collier. Still needs to maybe just gear down, from sixth to fifth, driving the Lamborghini. I mean, the guy is absolutely, a machine on the floor, but he has the attitude that the Jazz need, what Will Hardy spoke so much of last year. Some dog mentality, some toughness. There were a couple of times, got in some altercations, nothing crazy, but, you have to fight in this league to gain that type of respect, especially if you run the show at the point. So I like that. I'm anxious to see Taylor Hendricks back. His body looks good. It was a wicked injury 3 games in last year, OC, and I think this will be obviously, a telltale sign of just, how far he's come and what kind of strength that he's gained and what kind of player he's going to be. There's a lot of young talent, but a lot of unknowns. They haven't been picked to win more than 18 and a half to 19 games, but you know what? I'm all about surprises. Look, I guess you got to protect the eighth pick, right? The one that's protected from OKC. But I think what Austin Ainge wants to do is just go play. The vets are gone. I think it's the other key to this summer too, by the way, is that the vets are gone, and basically the minutes are going to be used by a bunch of 19 and 20-year-olds, minus Lauri Markkanen, right? So the front line looks strong. Backcourt seems intriguing. Is there room enough for everybody? Most likely not. So it should be an interesting camp.
Will Hardy better than I do. I wonder if, like you said, the veterans are gone, and there's not going to be this tomfoolery of, hey, there's an injury here, so he's sitting, and you do, like, you get to go play. And you probably have to lean all the way in on player development because you're not going to win a ton of games. But is it in some ways, even though you have less talent, less veteran talent at least on the team this year, is that a more direct or easier coaching job, do you think, for Will Hardy? Because there's none of that manipulation. It's just, let's go out and see what we can do with the bodies available to us.
Yeah, look. OC, from my chair, I would say yes. He may have a different answer, but I'm telling you, I would think that he's got to be excited coming from the Popovich coaching tree, spending, 11 years in San Antonio. I mean, that's what you do. You go coach, and you want to see growth. And he saw some with the last couple of classes, but now the green light's on. Austin Ainge has given him the ability to be the coach he wants to be, and that is to coach and to develop. And he always says it to us every year in our meetings, is that, look, this is not an easy league, and it's hellish at times. And you know what? Only the strong survive with talent. And that's what the Jazz are going through right now with this new draft class. And we don't know much about Ace, as you said, because of the injury, and Walter Clayton Jr., same, even though there's excitement around him as well. I mean, he's a 4-year guy, won a national championship, hit big shot, and also play some D. So that kind of elevates the excitement level too. But I think what the Jazz finally realize is that, look, they got fined $100,000 for saying that Markkanen was, still nursing a sore knee or a hamstring or a lower back. And we had to, the Jazz had to kind of formulate a plan on who was going to play every night, right? This year, whoever earns minutes is playing. And that may decide, obviously, who stays and who goes. Contracts, they're going to extend Walker Kessler. OC, that's the other thing. They've got until October to do that. But that'll be an intriguing moment if the Jazz decide to go there. So I think what they do this year, if they win, it's a great thing in many ways because they see development. But I don't think anyone expects the Jazz to take the Western Conference by storm. But yet I think they'll see the same steps that Oklahoma City did and Houston and Orlando is to make those steps, 1 year, one season at a time. But hopefully, doesn't take that much time, if you know what I mean. So you've got a couple of vets, Nurkic being one of them, and Lauri Markkanen being yet another. And, how does it work out? What are the minutes, and how does that second unit work too? Those are all things I think Will Hardy's excited to formulate and put into his own game plan about these young guys, and watch them grow and watch them learn, but also earn the minutes. And I think that's going to be the biggest key to watch. Who actually impresses, who actually plays the best to be on the floor the most minutes, and who closes out games. That sometimes is the biggest key of all on who the Jazz have their sights set on for this future run and the core of this franchise.
Greg Bolerjack, our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking Utah Jazz and Summer League and this NBA offseason. For now, maybe we'll touch on some football before the conversation is over. We've seen some movement in this offseason. You've touched on some of it. Is, outside of Salt Lake City, is there a move or a new addition to any one of these teams that really has you intrigued to, maybe keep an eye on an outside market?
There's a few. This wasn't the biggest off-season free agent market, OC. I'm still waiting to see where Kuminga goes. What is LeBron going to do? He's kind of holding his hat on this quite a bit. Do they want to move him? I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts are, but it just seems odd, that there's still this, as we hit August in a couple of days, that LeBron's obviously a headliner of, deciding if he's going to take his son Bronny, if that's part of the deal or not. I think some teams help themselves. Other teams kind of stayed flat. They made some moves. Oklahoma City still seems to me to be the team that's going to come back in with a swagger. Hard to go back and win back-to-back titles. The Jazz got there twice, but couldn't, win 97 or 98. But just to get there is a tough task by itself. Who stays healthy? Those are all questions I always ask, when the season starts. And then who makes, those big trade deadline moves prior to the All-Star break will be another big storyline as we move on. So, yeah, I think the league is still pretty stable from where it was. I'm anxious to see if LeBron gets moved. And obviously, Luka's body has been a big story about him slimming down. Big issue in Dallas. They weren't going to pay him or bought into his lifestyle. But we'll see if the California diet is going to stay with Luka or not.
Yeah. Are you buying or selling that, Bowler? Do you think that this is like a
no,
we saw this with Enes Kanter? You remember when Enes Kanter did this? Got all shredded, and we were just like, oh wow, turning over a new leaf. Didn't end up being fully sustainable. Do we think it will be for Luka?
No, I don't. I just think he is who he is. He grew up. He likes beer. Okay, beers come with calories. Does he burn a lot off during a game? He kind of plays at his own pace, right? But it'll be interesting to see if he likes what he sees, OC. He may look in the mirror and go, I've never seen this type of body before. Cantor liked it. I remember he did a couple of flexes and stuff when he came back. We go, whoa, what happened to you? But, it all comes and goes, right? It's hard to sustain during the course of 82, 6-7 months, eating, drinking on the road, whatever particular beverage you like. And we know what beverage he likes. But, hey, if he can, it should help his game. And maybe, the shredded pounds actually keeps him on the floor and healthier. That's the biggest key I think the Lakers want to see, is the investment is so high. Can he stay away from the ankle problem? Can he stay away from the calf strains? Can he stay away from the hamstrings? And so maybe the weight that he lost will play dividends for them and him.
What do you think the Jazz fan relationship with college basketball is going to be this year? Not just like watching our Utes and watching the Cougs, although there's a strong crossover here, but there was one eye on, hey, man, we're tanking so we can get Cooper Flagg. Let's at least watch the Cooper Flagg highlights. Let's watch the Ace Baileys of the world. Let's see if this VJ Edgecombe guy might end up in Salt Lake City. So let's pay some more attention to this. I mean, are more people going to be paying attention to BYU basketball in Salt Lake City because there's hope that A.J. DeBonsa ends up going to the Utah Jazz eventually? There's a lot of chagrin, and people felt jaded by the way that lottery worked out. Do we fall for it again?
Oh, OC, man, we could talk for hours on that. I think with Austin Ainge, even though he said we're not going to play that game any longer, it may happen on its own. And if you know what I mean, it's not like, putting the chess pieces out there and moving one veteran one night to play one and then resting for 5. The John Collins and the Colin Sextons and the Jordan Clarksons are gone. Great guys, by the way. I'll miss them because of just their personalities, and they still got a lot in the tank. JC lands in New York. What a guy's going to be a fashion icon more than he ever was in Salt Lake, walking into Madison Square Garden. But I think that the youth of this team may dictate, obviously, wins and losses and where the Jazz land in the lottery. It won't be as publicized. It may just happen, just morphing itself into minutes played by a bunch of 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. And so maybe that's the plan Austin has, is to let them go. Let's see what happens. And then, down the stretch, if it's close and you're going to lose that pick to OKC, then maybe things change. But I think you're just going to – my gut is let him play and let's see what happens. Last year, the Cooper Flag, sweepstakes was so interesting to be a part of. But I think the Jazz and the NBA and the fans, especially Utah, understand that there's no guarantees. You had the worst record in the league, 17 wins. You had, less than 14% chance of getting the number 1 pick. And what happens? You lose and go 5. And Dallas, who had 1.8%, ends up with the prize. And, Ace Bailey, look, let's hope he develops into something special. But, it's going to take time. Dallas shut Cooper down, in Vegas, didn't see much of him. And I think that's the other problem, too, in my opinion, in the NBA, is there's so much invested financially with these players that they're afraid to play them, and because of injury. And, I know Stockton and Malone would just roll their eyes at that, but it is what it is in today's world, OC. How much do the Jazz play Ace? How much? I mean, you got to play him to get better. And sometimes sports, as you know, we all know, there's risks that you take to step on the field or on a court on any given night. There's no guarantees, but you still got to go play. And I hope the Jazz open the door and let these guys go out and do their thing.
Greg Bowler, Jack, for a couple more minutes here on the Sean O'Connell Show. If you'll indulge me, Bowler, college football season is right around the corner. BYU and Utah opening up camp today. And look, last year, BYU with a resurgence. Last year, a disaster for the University of Utah. Optimism high for the Utes because of the offseason acquisitions, new offensive coordinator, new offensive staff, quarterback, obviously, that appears to be dynamic. You've seen, like I have, all of the preseason honors for that offensive line especially. I'm looking at it from the Ute perspective, but also from the college football fan in the state of Utah perspective. This, to me, feels like a year with a little bit of the old days of the Mountain West, potentially. I think BYU is going to survive the absence of Jake Retzlaff. I still think they're going to be good this year. Are you getting the same vibe that both teams could be really good? Both teams could be in contention for the Big 12, and we could be spoiled on good football in 2025 in our home state?
I hope so. I think it's good for the state. It's good for college football. It's good for the Big 12. Look, Kansas State, I'm always cheering for them, but, we'll see. I think it's going to be a great conference battle. I really do. There's some good football. And especially if Utah does have the resurgence. And, there's with the new offensive coordinator, I'm very intrigued to see the pace, OC, of how they play. A lot of talk about, getting up and down the field a lot more, trying to throw the ball. The run game at times on a pitch, go outside, hit the edge. And that to me is intriguing. And I'm with you. Look, BYU was one of the biggest stories in college football last year. Yeah, Jake's gone. But I still think that obviously the centerpiece of any team is the quarterback. But I think BYU has enough in the tank left over, and what Kalani's been able to do to really solidify that team, it says a lot. I mean, each and every year, OC, as you know, Kalani sometimes names gets popped up in the last 3 or 4 years, like, maybe he's not the right guy. Well, look, he is, and he always has been. But, BYU now has what is called NIL money, right? And, how does that change things? It changed things in basketball, right? And, Utah is trying to stay pace with that. And I think it just makes for intriguing conversation and competition. The NIL, when you were playing OC, I mean, come on. I mean, I just thought a scholarship was quite an honor, right?
That's winning a lottery back then. I mean, if you're a scholarship player, it's the best thing in the world. And now these kids are, these kids are trying to be millionaires before they leave school.
Yeah. They don't understand the fact that the free education with housing and basically a buffet of food every time, they want more. And look, that's a great debate. I'm old school, and I think you should still appreciate what a university can give you, and that's an education. Football, as we all know, doesn't last a lifetime. And, everyone has dreams to take it to the next level, but they're almost at that level in college, plus a scholarship, plus NIL money. And, the NCAA, you remember, used to chase teams. I'll tell you a quick story. I may have told you this one before, but when I was on air at KSL doing Sports Beat Sunday, I had the Heisman Trophy winner on, Ty Detmer, great guy. And I gave him a Sports Beat Sunday hat, okay? And I got a call the next day that he was going to have to return that because it could be an NCAA violation. Isn't that crazy?
That's wild.
I mean, in the world today, it was a $4.95 cap. And you know what I mean? It's like, hey, man, we always gave our guests, hey, man, hey, Ty, here you go. We're that proud on campus for us. Well, yeah, right on. Yeah, okay, cool. And they said, yeah, a little worried the NCAA may look at that as some sort of a gift.
That's so silly.
Oh, my. But now it doesn't even – isn't that crazy considering today and the fact the NCAA doesn't chase anybody, really, because it's so out in the open. And some people say that's a good thing because it was happening anyway. But for the elite players, mind you. But now, there's a little chunk of change for a lot of players out there. And I don't know where it goes. I don't know if there's a ceiling or they're going to try to put, bumper pads on this thing and just try to keep it, at least put some common sense on it. But if not, some schools may not be able to stay with it, right? I mean, can Weber State compete? It's hard to say. Utah State, Broncos there, but still, is that enough? But money does talk, and those alums with big checkbooks, and I've witnessed it at Texas, and especially in the SEC. When I was at CBS, OC, my gosh, there is money out there, and alums are willing to pay if they win. That's the big thing. If you win and put a program on the field that's going to, do damage, then they're all behind you. But once it kind of, tails off, the checkbooks close, and then you have to kind of regroup. But boy, there's a lot of money involved right now. So much.
So there's been this kind of weird undercurrent for the last couple seasons, really, about whether or not Kyle Whittingham is on his last year. And we asked him this offseason, why did you decide to come back? And he didn't say it outright, but he did kind of allude to, look, you can't walk away on a note like last year. Like I can't, a lot of people I've talked to think this is it. A lot of people said that 2 years ago as well. So take everything with a grain of salt. But I mean, he is one of the best coaches in all of college football. He's the second longest tenured guy in all of college football. If this is the final go for Kyle Whittingham, what does that mean for Utah football?
Well, I don't think he's going to mention it, which is a good thing. There will be some people behind the scenes that pretty much have an indicator that it is. But you bring up a great point. He's had a hell of a run, and he's been to 2 Rose Bowls. He's had a chance to win both. Sadly, didn't come out that way. But, the big win, what was it, 08 you were part of?
04 was the year I was there, yeah.
Yeah, 04. I mean, there's been some incredible wins. There's been moments that Utah has just been on top of the college football, pile. And last year was a huge disappointment. I get it. I don't think I'd want to walk out with that type of scenario and the way things went down. So why not give it another run with better and a strong recruiting class, a very high level offensive line, and as you mentioned, a new way of doing things at Utah offensively. That's intriguing. We know what they are defensively, but I'm anxious to see what type of package they put on the field and how much disruption that causes for defenses, around the conference. But I think we're in for a good fall. I really do. I don't see BYU letting up much. Yeah, Jake's gone, but as there's young players waiting to take the next step, and you got the right people around you makes you even better. So I'm hoping for good things, red and blue. I think it's only good for the state if it is.
I agree with that, even though people don't like to hear me say it on the home of the Utes right here. Before I let you go, circling back to the Utah Jazz, and it's unfortunate that it takes this long to have some of these conversations, but Frank Layden, you knew Frank a lot better than I did. He was an absolute pillar of the community, and he's been laid to rest, and all of us were sad to see him go, but what a legacy he left. And I just wanted to give you some space if you had anything you wanted to tell our listeners about the late, great Frank Layden.
Oh, gosh. OC, a wonderful man. Just left a luncheon that kind of honored him. Ronnie Mack was there. Love to see Mack. Such a great guy and such a great friend of Frank's. I mean, there were some tears and some people telling stories, mostly of his, of the comedy nature, but there were several that stuck out that I think people should know. He was the comedian. He was the guy that took a lot of the pressure in those early days from the Jazz off the players onto himself. The iconic statement of, "What time's the game, Frank? What time can you be here?" I'll start it at 5:30 for you if you want. But, Frank was a funny guy, but he was deep. He cared. And I talked to him multiple times. "Why are you staying?" He goes, "Why do you stay?" Because I'm a transplant myself, from the Midwest. And I said, "You know what? It feels like home. I love Utah." And he goes, there you go. He's Catholic. And he goes, "You're Baptist, Methodist. That's the way I was raised. And, we're in a Mormon community. Why not be here and bring everyone together?" And I thought, he's on a mission. He wants to make this city, this state, this region just embrace themselves, work together, and try to help the fellow man. I know that's heavy, but that's who he was. He did it, OC, in ways of comedy relief, to kind of let everybody loosen up and then kind of come on the same page with him. He was a master of dealing with people up on stage. He could have had his own show in Vegas, in my opinion, like George Burns, and would have brought the house down. That's how funny he was, and one-liners that came off of him. "Give me another one, give me another one." But in all, what was said at the luncheon today is so true. When he said goodbye, he would say this to you every time: "Is there anything I can do for you?" And you know what? He backed it up. He always was helping someone with, can I help you with your scholarship or with some financial help with education? I watched him do that. Wes Ruff over at Channel 4 had a great story about him on the golf course, driving up to a young man who had like 50 golf balls to sell. You've been there, where kids are out there trying to, pick up a buck or two for, three golf balls for $2 or whatever. And Frank goes, "How many you got?" "Got 50. He goes, "I'll take them all." And so the kid starts to put him in a bag for him, hands him a $50 bill, and says, "You know what? Keep them, sell them to somebody else," and then just takes off with a cigar in his mouth. That's the kind of guy he was. And Wes made a great point. The young man who was involved that day with Frank will always remember that. And I think that's what most of the people I run into in Salt Lake, OC, they remember Frank and a story that involved them and him. He was that type of guy, and I miss him. He mentored me when I first came to Salt Lake, and I've always been thankful for that, just in the sense of making the transition. And he's one of the first interviews I ever did on draft night '85. His iconic words were "bringing a mailman to Salt Lake City." And that was the first story that I ever covered, was Carl and Frank and the great jazz fan John Sudbury over at the old Salt Palace. And those echo with me still today. I was a young guy, and Frank was just an important cog in the beginning of my career in Salt Lake, and I definitely miss him.
Well, thanks for saying all that. Thanks for giving us time today. Look forward to the next one, Bowler. Appreciate you.
Anytime, pal. Talk soon.
Craig Bowler, Jack. You hear him on Utah Jazz broadcasts. He's just awesome. And, he is, like Frank, a transplant who has become part of the fabric of our Utah sports community. What a cool thing that he mentioned that, the faith-based sort of appeal for Frank, who was a Catholic, and for Bowler to say, why not bring it all together? That's something that I think outsiders fail to recognize about Utah. And I've been very, very fortunate. I was not raised LDS. I'm still not LDS. I was raised in the Catholic Church. I don't really practice anymore, but I always thought that it was a very welcoming and cool place. I'd never even thought about, Ron McBride is a pillar of the community, not Mormon. Frank Layden, pillar of the community, not Mormon. I don't believe Jerry Sloan was. You talk about guys like Bowler. There's a bunch of important people in this community. It's not always the outside perception is just like, it's this insular thing, and if you're not Mormon, you're not going to be embraced. And I just don't think that's the reality. And we have great examples of that with not only our athletes, but some coaches and broadcasters and things like that.
Yeah, it's something like I growing up in St. George. It's a different area, but there's still not this like you're an outsider, we don't accept you, but it is a lot more higher saturation of LDS people,
sure,
of LDS members in St. George than there is along the Wasatch Front, certainly in the Salt Lake Valley and Salt Lake City. So I think that it was definitely not something that I noticed as a member of that community growing up in the church, but I always felt like we Utahns were open and accepting to just about anybody of any backgrounds, and I think certainly that's the case here. And you, all those guys you mentioned up here in Salt Lake area, all those guys you mentioned, I think certainly probably felt more of that way because they've lived in a bigger city and with a lot less lower saturation of members of the LDS Church than like a smaller place like St. George was. The St. George that I grew up in, man, that place is blowing up, by the way. But
yeah, it's huge.
But yeah, I think that is something that a lot of outsiders, a lot of people that haven't been to Utah, lived in Utah, fail to recognize just how open we truly can be to just about any backgrounds. Of course, there's things that have been publicized that are unfortunate, but it's not that unlike most places in the United States, and we've been working on it, right? Like, and a lot of it does not have to do with people of different faiths too. So
yeah, I mean, I didn't even think the conversation would take this turn, but my mind is going through like a lot of especially on the sports front, right? There's now that Utah's been, a Pac-12 and now Big 12 institution, especially, and the recruiting profile really for both Power 4 schools in the state has changed. It's not what people outside think it is. And it's not, I don't know. And
you make a good point. Certainly since Utah and now BYU have leveled up into Power 4, Power 5 football.
I don't know what the demographic mix is now. I mean, when I was on the team at Utah, it was still a predominantly Mormon team. I bet that's not even true anymore. I don't know. But I bet it's not.
I bet it's not either. And another guy who wasn't here for very long was the head coach of that team, not Mormon, and Urban Meyer too.
Yeah,
who became a pillar for that short time.
Nobody's claiming Mormon. Nobody's claiming Urban at this point.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got to take a break. Big thanks to Craig Bowler, Jack, for joining us. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, refreshing your memory here on the overs and unders we set. If you're just tuning in, we started the show today asking some over-under questions for the upcoming Utah football season. Camp has begun at the University of Utah. Players are reported practice later this afternoon. Kyle Whittingham and some media availability. Looking forward to that. I'm asking 3 offensive questions on the over-unders today. Rush yards per game, over under 199.5. 877-353-0700. You taking the over or the under at 199.5 yards per game. Last year, this offense produced about 130 yards per game in the rush game. The Pac-12 championship years, they had 217 yards per game. Both years, averaged 217 yards per game. 199.5, if you hit the over and you're talking about a 200-yard game, that's good enough for number 5 in the Big 12 Conference, number 21 nationally, going back to 2024. So you taking the over or the under on rush yards per game as a Utah football fan, knowing you've got Devin Dampier, who runs the ball incredibly well, knowing that you brought in a whole new running back room, which may or may not be a good thing, honestly, because the running back room at the University of Utah has typically been pretty good. Marquette Tawaya has a great resume. Wayshawn Parker has a really good resume so far. You got some other talent on this team. What's it going to look like? 199.5 for rush yards per game. Sacks allowed. I said it at 9.5 sacks allowed by the Utes this year. There were 5 teams who gave up 10 or fewer sacks per game. 10 or fewer for the year, including Kansas from the Big 12 Conference. New Mexico, who not so coincidentally had the most elusive quarterback in the country, who's now in a Utah uniform, only gave up 5 last year. 4 of those were Devin Dampier. 1 was a backup. So this guy doesn't get sacked. Now, there are a lot of layers to that onion. He throws the ball away. He tries to force the ball downfield. That's why he had 12 interceptions. Hopefully that's not part of the result this year. You've got a much better offensive line at Utah than you had at New Mexico. Much better. You also have much better competition rushing your passer than you had at New Mexico. You've got better defensive backs in the Big 12 Conference. You don't necessarily have a proven wide receiving core at the University of Utah. So there's a lot of layers to it. Over or under 9.5 sacks allowed for the University of Utah. You would still be, really good on a national level if you gave up 10. Oregon's had a couple years where they only gave up 5. New Mexico only gave up 5 last year. The weird thing is there's also been a lot of teams that gave up that 10 of the number I listed there. Army, Navy, like a bunch of these teams are not winning at the highest level. Because, it's a symptom of the offense they run. So you can't take it as just, that translates to great wins and even to great protection. The most important over-under question I asked was points per game. Last year, Utah was abysmally bad in generating offensive points, 14th in the Big 12 Conference. We added a touchdown, 30.5. All right, 23.6 last year, 30.5 is the over-under. If they score 31 points per game, that would be good enough for 8th in last year's Big 12 Conference. So I'm not even asking you to jump all the way to the top of the pile. That's only number 41 nationally, 31 points per game in last year's NCAA football world. If Utah can generate 31 points per game, this is the more important stat, you'd have been either 11-1 or 10-2. If you scored 31 points in every game last year, and I know that's not how points per game averages work, but if you average 31 points per game, if you scored 31 points per game in all of your contests last year, you only lose one game outright, the other one goes to overtime, and you have a chance to win it there. But I'm asking you to add a whole touchdown per game to this offense with the new coordinator, with the new offense. with the same offensive line, but with talent that is swapping out at every other position. Different coaches in the wide receiver room and the running back room, different players in the wide receiver room and the running back room. The tight end role is going to be drastically different, even though the tight end's coach is the same person. I mean, it's a big changeover. This camp, in addition to what you saw in the spring, is as crucial as Utah's ever had. Because you're doing this now. You've never had this level of coaching turnover, this level of roster turnover in a Power 4 conference. In the Pac-12, even when you had a new coordinator coming in, there was still some continuity happening. And by the way, a lot of those years in the Pac-12, when you were swapping it out every single year, the expectations just weren't there. You hadn't elevated yourself to being a consistent top 25 team on the national landscape. Now that's the expectation. That is the litmus test of, did you have a good year or not at the University of Utah? Are you a ranked team? If you're not, it's a bad year. It's a privilege to have that kind of pressure, but it is a different world. So those are your over-under questions. Points per game, over-under 30.5. Sacks allowed, over-under 9.5. Rushing yards per game, over-under 199.5. 877-353-0700 or at Real OC Sports if you want to tweet at me.
I think we were in agreement on those, OC. We went under on sacks, under on points slightly, and then over on rush yards, right? Or are you going over on the points?
I'm going over on the points.
Oh, okay. So I have under on the points. You have over. There you go.
1624 says, I think they'll average 35 minimum a game.
Okay.
That is a college football playoff team, if that's what happens.
Let's go.
All right, let's go. Okay, got to take a quick one here. There is a trivia question coming, and we've got some tickets to give away on the other side to Simple Plan, August 16th at America First Field, RSL Stadium down there in Sandy. We'll also catch up with Jeremy Lieber from Uncommon Education Trading as we close out the show next on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. 2 tickets to Simple Plan at America First Field on August 16th. If you can answer this trivia question. In 2024, University of Utah averaged 130 rushing yards per game, slightly over that. That was good enough to rank where in the Big 12 Conference? Out of 16 teams, where did Utah's 130 yards per game rank in the Big 12 Conference? 877-353-0700. If you know the right answer, we'll give you a couple of tickets to Simple Plan August 16th at America First Field. All right, we've had some people texting in about this, so we bring back Jeremy Lieber from Uncommon Education Trading. There are folks out there who are sick of the grind, they're sick of the day job, or maybe they just want to supplement the income with some trading, with some playing in the stock market. I, like you, wouldn't know where to begin without a little bit of education, and we need the Uncommon Education type trading from Jeremy Lieber. How are you, sir? Jeremy, try it again. You there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Oh, hey. Yeah. I can hear you now.
Awesome. Perfect. No, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, appreciate you jumping on again. So, like I said, we've had some people shooting an email here, a text there about, hey, look, I've heard you talking about this. I've thought about it myself. What kind of realistic gain can I get if I'm not ready to do it full time? Or, there are people saying, like, I'm ready to quit my job if this is really profitable. When people bring a question like that to you, hey, where do I start? Do I start by jumping all in? Do I start by just dabbling, doing an hour a day or so? How do you handle that question, Jeremy?
Yeah, it's a great question. And what's cool about the way that we teach is our all immersive, all in programs are designed to only have an hour or so a day dedicated to learning this skill. Just like most things, it's not, this crash course of 3 days, full days, and you're going to learn it. It's like, no, it's just daily consistent effort. Most of our classes are run before the stock market opens, so it doesn't interrupt with people's work schedule or if they're students or whatever the case is there. And everything that we do is geared towards people who have no experience, right? So literally starting at the foundation of what the stock market is, helping you set up your account, understanding how to make money in the market from a short-term investing standpoint like day trading, and then the proper strategies, risk management, and management of your portfolio that can allow you to do this, whether that is you trade a couple times a week for supplemental income, or you want to get to the point where you want to do this full time and get out of the 9-to-5 grind or maybe the job that you don't love so much.
I hope this isn't a dumb question, but do you find that it is sort of intuitive for people that like you've obviously put together this curriculum? Is it something that is difficult for the average mind to master, or is this just something that we can unlock with a little consistency, like you said?
That's a great question. So I always tell people, if I can do it, literally anyone can. I went to one semester of college. I played football for a semester back in Virginia at a small school and had a 2.2 GPA. I mean, literally just a horrible student. And the way that we teach it is the same way that people learn to read music. The stock market is simply that. It's data and it's a system. And just like a musician learning to play the piano, if you don't know what you're doing and you start banging on keys, it's probably not going to sound too good. But when you learn how notes are put together, when you learn proper chords, and then you learn how to read music, it can sound beautiful, right? And that's the same way as we teach how to trade the stock market. It's just a bunch of if this, then that scenarios. We give you the framework and the tools to learn to read the stock market the same way a musician reads music. And then it just comes down to execution. And so it's very simple. It's unknown, right? And kind of the play on our name, uncommon, is the whole concept that it's really not that scary or complex. It's just unknown. And so that's where I think a lot of people's fears come from. But we break it down in a way that's very easy to understand, very digestible. We have people who are 18 years old right out of high school, and we have 75-year-old retirees who trade with us and find success very quickly with the systems we teach.
Jeremy, I just pulled up your player profile, 2010, number 4, 6 foot, 183 freshman from Farmington, Utah, Jeremy Lieber.
That's right. It was a short-lived little little football stint. I played at Viewmont growing up. Had an absolute blast. My dad actually played at the U. He played with Scott Mitchell. He was number 4. He was a kicker for a few years there, and it's football is in my blood. I love trading, honestly, because it allows me to travel and get to enjoy sports and sporting events and networking with people that I never would have outside of this. So huge University of Utah fan, kind of off subject of trading, but really excited for what we have coming up. And in our community, we have so many people just like me and you who love sports, want a little bit more of their time back, and use trading as a way to, accomplish that.
Well, that's, basically everyone that you ask about financial goals, some people have numbers, some people want a certain car, but it seems like the vast majority of people, they want more freedom. They don't want to be the slave to a job, or they want, even if they're happy with their job, they want to be able to afford a family vacation that maybe the salary isn't covering, right? So you can supplement it with something like day trading. And Uncommon Education Trading makes that available to people in a way that's meaningful and profitable. You're going to get there faster with education than trying to figure it out yourself, right?
100%. It took me almost 4 years and tens of thousands of dollars lost before I started even kind of understanding how trading worked and start to see success. Our whole goal, we actually have something that's called our mastermind program. It's a 5-week mentorship with me. We actually just started one on Monday, and you will know and be in the position after 5 weeks where I was after almost 4 years. And you won't have the bad habits developed. You won't, have the massive losses, that I occurred, or I incurred during that time. And you will have, the correct framework to start succeeding very quickly. And we see on average, right, most people are between that kind of 3 to 4 month realm before they really start seeing a lot of consistency. And we show you how to trade with as little as $500 in your trading account, or those who are, a little bit more ambitious and want to see, like I say, full-time sorts of income. We have an entire framework of how to help with that. So it really is for everyone. And whether it's on a very part-time, you trade once or twice a week, have a better understanding of how the stock market works, or you want to take this serious and be a professional and do this full-time like I do, where you can travel the world, trade for an hour a day, and just live life on your terms. I agree with you 100%. Freedom really is wealth, especially in today's world, and I think that's what everyone's seeking.
All right, Jeremy, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
So 2 ways: our Instagram account, Uncommon Education Trading, or our website, uncommoneducationtrading.com. On both of those, website or our Instagram page, you can actually book a free call with myself or members of our team to get more information about the programs we offer, how the whole process works, and to get more information. So feel free to head to either of those spots, book a free call. Would love to chat, whether that's regarding trading or just if you want to talk Utah football. Would love to connect with any of the listeners who may have interest at this point.
Jeremy, thanks for your time today. Appreciate you.
Thank you, and go Utes.
Jeremy Lieber, Uncommon Education Trading. Check him out on Instagram, as he said, or uncommoneducationtrading.com. Go Utes is the right way to finish the show, because Utah football practice today begins. We're 31 days away from the season kicking off. Let's do it again tomorrow on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN Radio Network.